Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow is underway on this Tuesday edition. Glad you're with us. Network includes this YouTube channel. You may be watching. If you're listening to us on this great radio partner, we hope you'll subscribe to the channel. You can get clips and shows on demand, interviews, and more from all of the great programs here on OutKick. Chad, another jam-packed show today. Michael McKenry joins us with the very latest across Major League Baseball. Plenty to hit there as the grind for the postseason is well underway. John McClain with tons of headlines across the NFL. Dalvin Cook, Ezekiel Elliott leading those, plus quarterback battles and more. He joins us in hour number 2. Dan Dockich does as well, host of Don't At Me. And Christian Hackenberg, former Penn State Nittany Lion and brief in the NFL, will compare the dominance of college for him to trying to make the transition into rookie NFL quarterback and the difficult nature that those guys face, and compare it to the big names that are trying to earn a starting role or have already that are in camp currently. Chad, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Hutton. I am fired up, ready for a big show today. Great guest list and plenty of huge topics that broke last night and this morning to get to.
Yeah, we start with the Jets and Dalvin Cook. We asked the question yesterday with Ezekiel Elliott signing with New England, who's left for Dalvin Cook? Turns out on the same day, he's headed to New York while Ezekiel Elliott is headed to Boston and Foxborough. At least a $7 million contract for Dalvin Cook on a one-year deal, and it could be up to 8.6 based on incentives. It makes him the 7th highest paid running back this upcoming season across the league. And for the Jets, they get a veteran back who has rushed for at least 1,100 yards each of the last 4 years. They get him on a one-year contract and another chance to prove it and earn it for Cook. They load up with another very talented player who was doing great things with the Vikings, who released him based on salary cap concerns. And that also gives some insurance for Breece Hall, who's coming off of an ACL injury. Dalvin Cook may not practice for a week or so. He's coming off a shoulder surgery. Plus, he has a child, I believe, that's due in the upcoming week or so. But point being, this is an all-in team. It has been, and this doesn't just confirm it. It seals the deal that they're making the run for the Super Bowl in 2023 based on the one-year contracts and incentives built in across their roster.
And now the only thing left to find out, not is it going to be an all-star team, but what kind of all-star team is this going to be? Is this going to be a collection of talent that gathers and goes and wins big and wins a Super Bowl for the Jets? Or is this going to be the 2000 Redskins when they formed an all-star team that was terrible early on in Daniel Snyder's tenure as Washington's owner? I don't know. But Dalvin Cook in the backfield as a weapon, not just running the ball, but his ability to catch as a pass catcher is huge for Aaron Rodgers and this offense. And to get him at that price, this is not necessarily a story about the underrated money market for running backs out there. It's a story about now what the Jets have compiled with that roster. But at $8.6 million tops, they're going to pay Dalvin Cook on that team with Garrett Wilson as an option. And now Dalvin Cook is both a rushing and receiving option with Aaron Rodgers. Look out. On paper, championships aren't won on paper. We can say that every time. But on paper, this team is incredible. I went back last night, Hutton, and watched, because I enjoyed it so much, a little bit more of that first Hard Knocks episode. I was showing Angie some of it who hadn't seen it. And watching some of that, and then just hearing it again, that it was Sauce Gardner matched up with Garrett Wilson. That was the AP offensive and defensive rookies of the year on the same team. And knowing how they're going to be going head-to-head in practice for years to come, and you've got that type of corner and that type of receiver, I mean, hopes are high for the Jets, and they should be.
And Breece Hall was running with effective production.
He looked great.
Prior to his injury, and he was activated today off of PUP. So he's back. They're getting Dalvin Cook added in, Michael Carter in the backfield as well. It's a stacked roster, and you're right. The question to ask, and we'll get into this with McClain, is this a feel of true Super Bowl contender, or are we looking at the NFL version of the New York Mets?
That's another good, more recent example.
Yeah, but the only difference is there is a cap that they have to adhere to, unlike paying a tax to go well over it like they saw with the Mets this year. Chad, I don't know what the buyout here is on the settlement, but Sage Steele, who reportedly turned down a $501,000 settlement offer from Disney and ESPN this past June, based on a lawsuit she filed saying that her First Amendment rights were they tried to slam the door on that whenever they suspended her for the comments made about COVID, saying that the COVID mandates were scary, and I believe she used the word sickening with Jay Cutler's podcast. They suspended her for that, and she said her First Amendment rights were infringed upon, freedom of speech, and she turned down the $500,000 offer, but posted today that they've settled this lawsuit. Life update, Sage writes. Having successfully settled my case with ESPN Disney, I've decided to leave so I can exercise my First Amendment rights more freely. I am grateful for so many wonderful experiences over the past 16 years, and I'm excited for my next chapter. Hashtag Steele Strong. She has certainly been that throughout this process, and she got more than the 501, although we don't know the bottom line figure here. She held firm, and she wasn't a part of the layoffs because she was a part of this lawsuit, even though she was leaving anyway as soon as it was settled out of court.
Hutton, is someone not that have sued my employer or received any type of settlement or buyout at any point. I've not been that lucky to receive that. We have negotiated exits from a company.
Yeah.
And we can be the first to tell you that everything is negotiated. Even how you announce your exit is negotiated. So when you see that, I have decided to leave so I can exercise my First Amendment rights more freely. And I have successfully settled my case with ESPN Disney. That was negotiated through lawyers. Exactly how she was going to word it, exactly what she was going to say. I don't know how much more money she got. Maybe it's not a lot more money, and it was more of that Sage Steele was going to leave with her dignity and not be forced to apologize again the way she was before, because she said she was forced to apologize or lose her job. And I think the apology was something like, I know that I've put the company under pressure, and for that I apologize. She did not apologize for her statements, but said that she brought undue publicity or something like that to the company, to ESPN and Disney, and she apologized for that. She wasn't going to be forced to apologize again, and she was going to let everyone know, I won. This was a successful settlement for me. I'm leaving so I can more freely exercise my First Amendment rights. Good for Sage Steele. Now, she was making $3 million a year. They offered her a $500,000 settlement with a lawsuit. Is she going to make all of her contract that's left as well? I've read that a number of ESPN employees that were let go got paid their full remaining contract.
Either that or they were paid for a year.
Yeah, for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah. But either way, I mean, that part of it's good for those that got laid off. They at least got some money on the way out. But look, I mean, good for Sage Steele. I think this was an important win to show that even though you work for a big corporation and they can talk all scary and they can intimidate you and it's a much bigger machine than you are, you don't have to do something you know is wrong in order to keep your job. And she was able to fight them off, and she ends up, as she said, successfully settling with ESPN and Disney.
And I wonder what this leads to, with the forced apologies that we see so often now. I'm sorry if you were offended. I'm sorry I offended you kind of apology. Knowing that if you don't believe it, you shouldn't do it, quite frankly. And she did it, but then certainly filed the lawsuit where she goes out the way she wants to go out instead of handling something or doing a job that she doesn't really believe in. So more power to her there, and I hope she lands somewhere that's going to make her extremely happy and wealthy, and somewhere where she can speak her mind.
I think, Hutton, that we're seeing now, we're in this apology cycle, the forced apology by everyone, whether they mean it or not. Here's my apology, Chat GPT could form your apology for you, and it's all the same thing. We now have this cottage industry of groups and people and websites and media brands that never apologize, that I don't think you're ever going to see an apology from.
Publicly, they don't.
Yeah.
But, who knows what's going on behind the scenes.
But my point is, it's still a small minority, right?
No doubt.
But there are groups that we're never going to apologize. I think that Dave Portnoy buying back Barstool for $1 is part of that, right? I mean, Mincy got fired by the corporation, and then Dave Portnoy and Erica Nardini came out and defended their guy and went after their parent corporation. Never apologize. And that's part of that brand. There are others also that aren't apologizing. I don't see many apologies coming from OutKick people either. That's another part of this cottage industry of never apologize for anything. So I do think that tide is starting to turn a bit. But to Sage Steele's point, it's still the vast majority that's always forced to apologize, whether they believe it or not.
And the four-letter network that demands full authority over apologies or referencing certain issues across the sports landscape that certainly cross over into politics. The free speech of some on the network compared to trying to shadow ban others behind the scenes. In this case, it doesn't win. And they certainly have to change some policies based on the fact that Steele goes out this way instead of just being one of the many that were laid off a couple of months ago. Chad, the Tuohys and Michael Orr.
Speaking of forced apologies.
Yep.
Maybe there will be some forced apologies coming soon.
So we didn't hear, other than a statement that was made a couple of years back in a book, I believe, that Sean and Leanne Tuohy wrote. We didn't hear from them yesterday, except on a quick hit on Barstool Radio. Here is Sean Tuohy discussing what Michael Orr filed through a Shelby County, Tennessee court with his attorney yesterday, saying that he did not learn until this past February that he had signed a document making the Tuohys conservators over all things Orr, last name Orr, name, image, likeness. When he signed it in 2018, he said he was tricked into signing it, thinking it was for a full adoption into the family. And that took everyone by surprise with this news, because he's saying that the Blind Side story is fabricated and a lie. Here is Sean Tuohy discussing that with Barstool Radio.
I'm going to preface by saying that I loved Mike at 16. I love Mike now he's, 16 and a half years old, 37, and I love him at 67. So there's not going to be any legal dossier or thing that happens that's going to maybe, go like, screw that guy. It's not the case. I'll be mad at him. But to your initial point, no, I mean, if he says he learned that in February, I find that hard to believe. So I went back to my text today to look at, I was curious today randomly to go back to look at our family group texts and text to see what things had been said. And there were things back in 2020, 2021 that were like, if you guys give me this much, then I won't go public with things. And so I don't know that's true. I think everyone learned in the past year about the conservatorship stuff because of Britney Spears. So maybe that's the case.
And so hearing that, saying if he's got text from Michael Orr who says, hey, give me this much and I won't go public, and this was 2020 or 2021.
Yeah, it's blackmail.
Yes, and that also makes whatever's been filed in court inaccurate and false. This is going to be fascinating to follow, because the documents that he said he signed and didn't know it when he was 18 compared to when he found out. He's 37 now. And then whatever Sean Tuohy is saying about text messages that he's referencing but didn't show in 2020 or 2021, the back and forth and the discovery process of this, it's going to be lengthy if it gets to the court. And if it doesn't, the negotiations behind the scenes and statements made are going to be like a tennis match back and forth, who's lying and who's not, and who should we believe and who shouldn't we believe, based on the story that we certainly found out in depth with, a movie that made $300 million over the course of the release of a very popular film, The Blind Side.
Well, this is a perfect soap opera for sports that's taking place right now.
So
because everybody knows the story because of the movie, and if you read the Michael Lewis book, and there's so many conflicting claims and reports that's out there. So the Tuohy family is saying originally, we negotiated a deal with Michael Lewis. We got a one-time payment for the rights to the movie in his book from him and his camp in the movie studio.
$250,000.
$250,000 that someone claimed Michael received as well.
Yeah,
up front.
5 payments, yes.
Now, here's where it gets a little weird, is Orr's claiming they've continued to make millions after the fact. Sean Toohey Jr. says in that same interview later on, we haven't really made that much. He said, I'd say 60 to 70K over the last 2 to 3 years. Okay?
Last 2 to 3 years.
Yeah. And that's also not nothing.
And
that's 70K over 2 or 3 years. Are you making that every 2 to 3 years? Because if so, that supports the claim. And the fact you're saying you've made that money in the last 2 to 3 years tells me Michael Orr may be right about this claim, that there's some sort of royalty split that he's not seeing. And I agree with Orr. He should see that royalty split on it if something's going on after the fact.
And Chad, it was what's in the court filing is they sold the story in perpetuity to 20th Century Fox, and that it was 2.5% of all of the net earnings from the film, which grossed $300 million, roughly.
Yeah, and I also think the family's clearly got on the same page. SJ Toohey says, I loved him at 16. I love him at 37.
Right.
Sean Toohey released the same statement to the Daily Memphian. He said, I'm going to love the kid today just like I did when he was 16, and we're still going to love him, yada, yada, yada. Look, the plot thickens on this thing. I don't know who's right. I don't know who's wrong, but I'm going to keep following.
And you know what they didn't say? Adoption or son. Just Michael Orr.
This man.
Michael McKenry joins us next with the latest on Major League Baseball here on HotMic.
Jason Aldean's new song. Jason Aldean's new song, Don't Try It in a Small, Try That in a Small Town, is awesome. It's basically saying to you Antifa clowns out there and you rioters, look, you can go ahead and burn down Democratic-run cities. And the cops, at least in Indianapolis, will be told by an alleged drunken mayor to stand down. That's fine. But don't try that in a small town. You saw what happened in Crown Point, Indiana. Crown Point, Indiana, there was rumored that a group was coming in to tear it up. Crown Point's just a little south of Gary. And all the fellas got their shotguns out and lined the streets. Do you know how much trouble there was in Crown Point, Indiana? Bam. 0. Zip. Nada. Liberals went nuts. Oh, this is racism. No, not really. Hey, there's white Antifa. There's black Antifa. You're just protecting your streets. You're just protecting the businesses that you use. See, here in Indy, we did not protect the businesses that we use. We let idiots run wild. We let idiots burn. We let idiots break. We let idiots destroy. That's not the way to go about it. You try that in a small town. Here's what happened in Ottawa Lakes, Michigan, where my wife's from. There was a rumor, group was coming up from both Toledo and Cincinnati. And they were going to go into this gun store and loot it. Word got out. Neighborhood app got started. You know what happened? The fellas, I think it was Ottawa Lakes. There's another town right there. It could be a different town. I don't know. They're all there. You know what happened? The fellas surrounded and protected the gun store. You know the rest of the story, right? The Antifa pussies came up, looked around, saw they were being challenged, and like every single group of bullies, turned around and left. Damn right. That's a small town. And if you think Don't Try It in a Small Town country music, television or whatever is racist, tough. Good for you. We don't. It's number 1 on the charts. And I put out a tweet earlier today of an African-American guy, big, strong guy, that said, hey, don't be coming down here to Alabama. African-American guy. I'll retweet it. Said, don't even think about coming down here and starting that crap. Don't even think about it. Well, guess what? He ain't wrong. It ain't about black or white. It's about protecting the businesses that you use against people that are trying to destroy your town. And Jason Aldean ain't wrong, baby. And you liberals can bitch and whine and moan and write your articles and try to cancel him or cancel me for standing up for it or get mad at OutKick. I don't care. I love seeing what happened in Ottawa Lakes. You want to come in here? Ain't happening. It just ain't happening. Crown Point, Indiana, everybody called them racist because it was white guys with shotguns. You know what they did? They protected their town. I wish we'd have protected our town here in Indy. You go into Indy, it is awful, horrendous, horrific. Nothing going on downtown for the most part.
Sixth and Peabody, our location with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. HotMic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick network rolls on. Coming up in a couple of minutes, Michael McKenry will join the show. You can join us in multiple ways. You can stream us live each and every day on YouTube and other social platforms. OutKick.com is also where you can find us. Or on this great radio station each day, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Chad, your Atlanta Braves, the offensive output from this team is insane.
Hutton, it is steroid era good. Steroid era. It is your prime time of baseball fandom.
But it's not
everyone was juicing good.
But it's a team that doesn't look like steroid era.
No, not a single guy
you know
looks
what I mean?
like McGuire or Bonds or any of those guys. They're not all bulked up.
What do you attribute this to?
They're just great at offense. I mean, really good hitters. We'll talk with Michael McKenry in a little bit, but Ozzie Albies missed his first start of the year. 117 games into the season last night. He's now on the 10-day DL for a hamstring strain. But those guys play every day. It's just it's a mantra. They inherited it from Chipper Jones, who Freddie Freeman, his hero was Chipper Jones. Chipper would never willingly take a day off for rest. Freddie Freeman was the same way. Then Acuna, Austin Riley, those guys inherited that work ethic from Freddie Freeman. And now when Matt Olson joins the team, they just don't take days off. Ozzie Albies, they've got their prime guys in the lineup every single day. They've stayed healthy. Just a great hitting ball club. They're the odds-on favorite to win the World Series right now. I'm still skeptical of their starting pitcher. When you get past Max Fried, they need a little work. They've got some inconsistency, but their lineup is legit.
You wanted an addition at the deadline.
I wanted a starting pitcher. I wanted someone who could be your three-man in the rotation in a playoff series that I'd feel better about.
I mean, they are
Spencer Strider also. I should throw in there as a guy you can rely on for the most part.
They have last 5 games
leading the majors in strikeouts.
And I know you know this. That the Braves have outscored the Mets and Yankees by a total of 51-13 through ESPN stats and info. That plus 38 run differential is their best in a 5-game span since August of 1957. And that ball club went on to win the World Series. I would hope so, back in 1957. That's dominant, and that's more than that. That's record-setting streaks that if they continue, I mean, it's more than just the Atlanta Braves are trying to roll it back. Not only are they trying to run it back, they are insanely better than what we've seen the last couple of years.
It's incredible. I think it was Andre 3000 of Outcast at the 1995 Source Awards, where all the East Coast, West Coast beef was taking place.
Okay.
And Outkast won Best New Artist, and they got booed by the New York crowd because they wanted to see, an East Coast guy get it. And they were Atlanta. They were down south. But a famous line from Andre 3000 when he accepted the award, he said, "The South's got something to say." We're looking at it right now. Hello, New York. The South's got something to say. Atlanta is taking it to both ball clubs in your city currently, and they're going to be around for a while. They have team favorable contracts locked up with their core young guys for the next 5 to 7 years. It is remarkable how good this team should stay year after year.
And they don't come across as individuals that are going to demand more or hold out. Maybe they get to that, but I mean, with the massive contracts and owners that are now spending well above, they took the money based on where they were in their career and the youth involved.
Well, John Smoltz was on the broadcast last night of Braves-Yankees for Bally Sports with the Braves home broadcast with Jeff Francoeur, and he was saying, some of it is luck. He said the Braves are a great organization. He's like, that's not luck. Getting Austin Riley and Ronald Acuna Jr. and Ozzie Albies locked up, that's not luck. That's good foresight and the contracts they got. But an example he gave was they lose Dansby Swanson. They can't pay everyone. Dansby Swanson was a key guy for this team the last few years, right? He goes to the Cubs. They just elevate Orlando Arcia to an everyday player, and he's a starter in the All-Star game. He said that's luck. That's good fortune. No one knew Orlando Arcia was going to have this type of season at shortstop for the Braves. That was an example of something good happening. But they've been very injured with their pitching staff. And Max Fried, he's now got 3 starts under his belt coming back. Look good. I'm telling you, this is the team to beat right now in Major League Baseball.
Ted, you mentioned the Andre 3000 saying the South has something to say. James Harden certainly did while in China, discussing the former general manager of the Houston Rockets that had a great rapport with Harden then. Now he's the president of basketball operations with the Philadelphia 76ers, Harden's current team, Daryl Morey. And the relationship goes back years because we mentioned yesterday and seeing a screenshot of whenever Morey left the Rockets, he took out a full-page ad in the Houston Chronicle, and the photo at the top was with him and James Harden throughout that era. Called Morey a liar and doubled down on it while speaking at an Adidas unveiling in China, and certainly made headlines, not because of the location, but how disgruntled James Harden is with Morey now, because Harden opted in to the final year option for the player, which is a $35, $36 million option that he accepted under the idea, at least from Harden and those reporting on the league, under the idea that Morey had agreed that they were going to do everything possible to try to trade him. Harden wants to go to the Clippers. Doesn't seem like that's going to happen. And from the 76ers end of it, they're now saying, and Morey is saying, hey, my stance hasn't changed. We're not planning on moving him. We want him a part of this team. Well, now Harden is upset. And Adrian Wojnarowski, had a story at ESPN saying that Harden was disgruntled. Well, Kyrie Irving came to Harden's defense in a response to the tweet that linked the story, saying, is he disgruntled, Adrian, or is he holding Daryl Morey accountable for his dishonesty and lack of transparency throughout the contract negotiation process this summer? Normally, I sit here and look at this and go, yeah, the organization holds the power here. If you're under contract, you're under contract. That doesn't happen, though, in the NBA.
They operate by a different playbook.
And that's why I look at this and think, if he opted in under the guise that he was going to be traded, this is the power of the NBA player. And for whatever reason, if that was agreed to, normally that's what happens. In this case, Morey's saying, hey, yeah, we're sticking put. We're not getting what we want in return. We're not really chatting about trading James Harden. And now Harden's going vocal, and he's doing it by calling his president of operations a liar.
Well, we are a believer that words matter on this show. The word was disgruntled, okay? Is he disgruntled? A new segment on the show I'm going to call, Let's Go to the Dictionary. Let's go to the dictionary. Merriam-Webster, disgruntled. Someone who is unhappy and or annoyed. That is the very definition of James Harden. That is why he wanted to be traded, because he was unhappy and annoyed with the 76ers organization. It was disgruntled James Harden that entered the room having asked for a contract or having asked to be traded, that signed the contract in the understanding that Daryl Morey would then trade him after signing that one-year option, right? Well, he's not found the price that he wants back for James Harden so far, so he hasn't been able to deal him. But Kyrie Irving looks like an idiot here because when you're asking, well, Adrian, is he disgruntled? Of course he's disgruntled. He's asked for a trade. He is a disgruntled Philadelphia 76ers player under contract with the Philadelphia 76ers. If you look up disgruntled in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, you will see James Harden's beard in there. So, yes, he's disgruntled.
Well, maybe
you can defend him without saying something stupid.
Maybe he should have used different words instead of disgruntled. Maybe annoyed, irritated, testy, belly aching, crabby James Harden instead of disgruntled.
Again, let's go to the dictionary. New segment on the show.
Discontent.
If someone has a problem with a word they've been called, we go to the dictionary.
Pissed.
These all describe James Harden. By the way, they also all describe Kyrie Irving at different points in his career. So maybe he's just being a little sensitive.
The average NBA player, honestly.
Yeah,
but it's also a league, though, that does things after the fact, that after a deal is done. It's a league that if you want a player and you're trading up in the draft, the team that you're trading with drafts the player that you want, and then it becomes official after the draft that team traded for said player. So it's a little backwards in both things that Kyrie mentioned in the response to Woj are correct. He is disgruntled. You're right, and he's also calling out the dishonesty of Morey in the statements made. And Harden's agent tried to get him not to make the public statement at that Adidas event.
Yeah, because he knows it's not going to help him get traded or help him with anything. And also, only those two men know what was said between the two of them, and probably his agent.
Yeah, but it has
because
been.
if it's I promise you will be traded by this date. You have my word. Now sign this piece of paper. Then Daryl Morey is a liar for not getting it done by then. But was it that, or was it we are going to make every effort to trade you? I believe we can make it happen. Sign the 1-year extension. We're going to work hard to make it happen. Well, he's not lying. If he is making every effort to trade him, because they have spoken with teams, they're just not getting the asking price they want for James Harden in return. So, two different things. And they're the only two that know it. And Daryl Morey may have lied to him. That's also very much a possibility. But to act like James Harden isn't disgruntled, this whole thing started because he's disgruntled, because he wanted out and he was under contract. That's how all this happened.
So, maybe he promised him, maybe he didn't. But Harden also forced his way out of Brooklyn and did that successfully.
Yep.
And he's trying to do it again here under a final year of a contract and then double it up by potentially going to the Clippers. He's also, according to reports, naming his team as well, which doesn't seem like it's going to end well for Harden one way or the other. But the speculation is, through the insiders in the league, Chad, is that was the promise. But again, is that the contract? No. But normally, the player gets his way in the NBA.
I went from hating this construct in the NBA where players just name their destination publicly of where they're going to go and who they want to play with, and then magically GMs and owners and everyone and other players make it happen. Hated it when it started with the big three in Miami and LeBron James and Bosh and Dwayne Wade. Then I learned to love it a little bit with all the offseason drama that the NBA causes. They own their offseason, and they get a lot of drama going. And now this is all cyclical. I'm back to hating it again. I hate this story. I hate that he's naming the Clippers. I hate that he can pull the strings and make this happen. And I, for one, am kind of happy that there's a GM out there willing to say, yeah, we're not getting the price that we want, so shut up and dribble. Shut up and play. You're a Philadelphia 76er. I kind of like that for once. And I'm not always on the owner's side or the team side on these things, but when it comes to the NBA and this mess that happens all the time, I'm okay with it.
And with Harden quite a bit. And players
especially with
bit.
James Harden,
yeah,
who's never happy.
Or never at the very top of the ladder in terms
of also
winning.
James Harden, who, let's face it, shows up fat at times to the start of an NBA season. Yeah. I mean, he acts like he's an NFL player in 1972 that worked an off-season job that has to get in shape when they get to training camp. You are a paid professional basketball player. Don't gain 25 pounds in the offseason.
He's also, he did win MVP in 2018. And a six-man award, I believe, a decade ago or so? Maybe longer than that.
Man, I miss those Oklahoma City Thunder teams. Durant, Westbrook, and him.
Yeah.
That was back when all those guys were so likable. Like,
And
that team was the darlings of the NBA.
And they were even more likable because
they lost to the
of
Heat in the finals.
Yes, because of the super team.
Yep.
The beginning of what is now the league currently. Although I think they've done a good job, and it's through the stars, it's not through the league, of maintaining superstar status in some smaller markets. Giannis comes to mind there. And look, Ja Morant is a star that is going down the wrong path, but he signed the Supermax extension with Memphis. And, of course, what's going on in Denver with Jokic. I mean, we're starting to see tentpole players in different markets instead of everyone, joining forces and going to Miami. Or maybe we like that because we just referenced the era when we liked Oklahoma City.
Call me crazy. I like it when this happens. When a team gets a GM, they have an owner, and they hire a GM and a coach. And that GM is in charge of drafting players to the team. And they're in charge of scouting talent and drafting them and then trying to sign them to long-term extensions and making trades around those players, as opposed to the players signing a contract 1 year into a 4-year deal saying, I'm disgruntled, I'm unhappy, get me out of here.
And it comes from
That's what I like.
A player ripping a GM and president who has always, speaking of tentpoles, waved the flag for James Harden throughout his NBA career. Coming up, Michael McKenry joins us on HotMic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick network.
I want to hear, but it's like this is South got something to say. That's all I got to say. Yeah.
The two biggest social media giants, Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, are set to battle it out, and I'm here on Broadway asking people who they put their money on. Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk? They're going to fight each other. Who do you think's going to win?
I think Mark's got him.
Really?
Yeah.
Why do you think that?
Because he's a man.
Okay, and Elon Musk isn't?
Oh, well, of course, he's got money.
Okay.
He's got money. Money, well, money's money.
Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg in a fight?
I don't know. I'm going to go with Musk.
Why?
It just seems like he's a little bit younger, a little bit smarter.
You just got a good feeling about him?
I got a good feeling.
Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg?
Musk.
Why?
He trains. That guy's going to beat his.
But Mark Zuckerberg is actually training jiu-jitsu for 9 months.
Not happening. Elon Musk all day. Elon Musk.
Why do you think?
He has no soul. I mean, I think he's definitely just going to no holds barred.
Elon Musk.
Why do you think that?
I don't know. I feel like he's stronger and smarter.
Oh, Elon Musk.
All the way? Why?
All the way. He's an animal. Think about it.
Mark Zuckerberg's been training for 9 months jiu-jitsu. You think Elon Musk can take him?
Yeah, I think he could take him.
Elon, that oh God, stop playing with Elon. Elon really do this out here, for real.
I hope Elon
Really? Why do you think so?
got better ideas.
Zuckerberg's like 5'7", 155. Musk is 6'1", 190. But Zuckerberg's been training jiu-jitsu for 9 months. Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg, who's going to win in a fight?
Oh, Elon Musk. No doubt.
Why do you think so?
He's the GOAT. I've been seeing all the Twitter handles and all the talk, and I'm on Elon Musk's side. I'm ready for them to get in the WWE ring and then come off the top rope. That's what I want to see. I want to see a people's elbow to Mark Zuckerberg.
If one was more likely to be a lizard or a robot, who would it be?
Elon. Elon.
Okay.
I think Mark Zuckerberg will win.
Why do you think that?
Because I think he already trains MMA. So he's got like the prior experience and stuff. I mean, they're both billionaires, so they have the opportunity to get the best training. But I think Mark Zuckerberg will pull away with the win.
Elon Musk.
Why do you think so?
Because he's bigger.
Bigger, okay, but Mark Zuckerberg's been training jiu-jitsu for 9 months. Do you think that matters?
No.
Zuckerberg, he's part alien or robot, so he may have some secret powers that we don't know about.
I was going to say, is that an advantage? Does he have an advantage over Elon Musk then?
Yeah, I mean, if he, sheds his skin and becomes an alien and eats everyone, yeah, I think so.
Elon Musk is mental, so Elon Musk.
All it is just he's mental. He's mentally crazy, so.
He just wouldn't care, would he?
Okay.
He'd just absolutely go for it. I think Zuckerberg would be a bit more refrained.
Okay.
If that should ever happen, which I doubt, but you never know, it'd be entertaining.
Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg?
Elon Musk.
Why?
Because my dad is in love with Elon Musk.
Okay.
I think I'm going to have to go with Zuckerberg. I mean, Threads just came out, so.
Who do you think would win?
Zuck.
Why do you think so?
He's not a real human. He's a robot.
So he'll use that to his advantage.
Yeah, and all the Krav Maga stuff too. Yeah.
Who do you think would win in a fight, Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk?
Elon Musk.
Why do you think Elon Musk?
I think Elon's
He
smarter.
works with robots, so maybe he built a robot to fight for him.
But what if Mark Zuckerberg is a robot?
Oh, wow.
Then I might have to change my answer.
Who do you think's gonna win?
Me.
HotMic with Hutton and Withrow rolls on. Glad you're with us here on OutKick. Michael McKenry joins us with the very latest across Major League Baseball. The Fort, Major League Baseball analyst Michael McKenry. Good to see you, man. Hope things are well.
Everything's great. Good to see you guys. Hope life's treating you well down in Nashville.
No doubt. And Chad is ecstatic because of his Braves. I mean, this is an offensive output that is...
What a fun weekend, Michael.
Man.
If you're a Braves fan, the hated Mets, and you just waltz up to Queens and just curb stomp the Mets in a 4-game series. It was great.
Yeah, I think the Mets are actually in therapy now, and then the Pirates come to town, they beat them up. But yeah, it was an interesting weekend for all Mets fans, and the Braves fans have to be ecstatic. I mean, you think about having a rivalry, and you just go in and score a couple touchdowns, couple extra points, and then walk away and say, yeah, we did our job. I mean, they've just been phenomenal all year long. They haven't stopped. And I was just with them, getting to see some of the coaching staff and Sal Fasano, Walt Weiss, and those guys. The team they have is just really, really special, guys. I don't think I can express that enough, how cool this team is and how much they love each other and they actually fight for each other. You don't see that a lot in professional sports anymore. This team has one heartbeat.
Well, and you've talked about this a lot, Michael, the culture of that team that really came to light in that run in 2021 where they won the World Series. But part of that culture is not taking days off. I mean, their star players, they're simply not taking the maintenance day that you see most stars across the league take every now and again. Now Ozzie Albies has strained his hamstring up in New York, missed the first start after 117 games started this season. Last night he's on the 10-day DL. Is that what you fear with that mentality? Is like a wear and tear injury like that, or was that just a coincidence? And what do you make of that culture with the Braves playing every single day?
Well, first with the culture, I think you set precedents when you start signing guys. You give the opportunity for guys to play every single day. If they're not under contract, a lot of times guys have to protect their future. They have to protect themselves. When they're under contract, they know they're there. So they're willing to go out with a sore hamstring. They're willing to go out with a sore arm and go do some things that maybe other guys wouldn't be willing to do. And that's the culture they've created around. They have a lot of guys that are bleeding, that brave blue. They're not scared to go out there and play with a nick, a tear, or anything. They're just willing to go out and play. And then when you think about maintenance, I hate that word. This game is not lived very long when you're a player. You got to go out and play. If you have the opportunity to play and you don't have anything hanging away from your body, you go out and play. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're setting that old school precedence. And I think that comes from the top down. Usually I say it comes from the bottom, but in this case, the Braves have a GM that cares. He comes down and asks and says, hey, what do you think about this guy? We're thinking about bringing him into spring training. We're trading for him, and then vice versa. They have a lot of guys around the clubhouse and that coaching staff that have that old school mentality, but they're not willing to not listen to the new school stuff as well. So they have a good blend that has brought a really good culture, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to win on that given day. And that's including putting almost the exact same line out every single day. And you're going to get hurt one way or another. It's not helping other teams keep guys on the field that aren't playing guys every day. So the reality of it is they've actually done an incredible job, something that hadn't been done since the 40s, I believe it was, or the 70s, with having the top 4 guys go out, play every single day until Albies just got hurt.
Over the last 5 games, 51-13 is the score for the Braves winning winning the scoreboard by 38 runs. In your career, Fort, is there a team that comes to mind, a lineup that comes to mind that you knew just going in, your club knew going in, we have to rake if we're going to win. We have to score a certain number on the board in order to have a chance to win this game or this series.
Yeah, 2015, the Dodgers started putting a lot of things together. It's when Max Muncy started showing up. They still had the likes of, Hanley Ramirez, Adrian Gonzalez. They had a lot of really, really good players, and it seemed like they were always hot when we played them. So I would say the Dodgers in 2015, and then I'm going to date myself a little bit, but, the last couple of years of Albert Pujols in St. Louis, how good that team was. They were remarkable. I mean, I know David Freese got a lot of love, but when you look back and you kind of see the teams that Texas and St. Louis were putting out when they played in that World Series, those teams could absolutely mash. I mean, they were scoring a touchdown a game, it felt like. And it was just really special. Some of the guys that were on the team, a lot of Hall of Famers in the next couple of years are going to be inducted from those teams because that's how good they were.
So in the National League, Braves, Dodgers, sort of in a class by themselves right now. After that, how close are the Phillies? Knowing that they're probably starting a little bit too late to ever catch the Braves in the division, but a team that got hot a year ago and went to the World Series, they're figuring it out right now. Michael, how close are the Phillies to the Braves and Dodgers?
Well, if you mention the Phillies, you can't not mention the Marlins. That team's really close to it. It seems like they did a lot of good things in that trade at that trade deadline to bring a better culture together, and they're really smashing the baseball. They just went back to back to back the other day to win a game. Josh Bell's been absolutely on fire, but when you think about the Phillies, you look at back what they did last year. They've got their team leader back in Bryce Harper. He's playing a lot of first base, which has got to fire the fan base up. And what they did for Trey Turner recently, I thought was absolutely phenomenal to be able to show, hey, this is what we believe, and we believe in you. When they started cheering for him, he's hitting 240, really been struggling, no power after a huge World Baseball Classic. And then all of a sudden, he's hitting 370 over 8-9 days and just absolutely mashing the baseball because he feels like the city just took him and threw him on their back and said, hey, we love you. We wanted you here. We believe in you. And they started giving him a standing O when he comes walking to the plate, which is remarkable. I mean, you just don't hear stuff like that. And how they came together and figured out, hey, this is what we're going to do is even cooler.
Michael McKenry, our guest on Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow here on OutKick. Anyone ever come up and offer to name their newborn Fort if you hit a home run?
Well, I was expecting you guys, if you have any more kids, I expect you guys to mention it to me. I want to name our kid Fort. So is that okay, guys?
I'm with it. I like it. Yeah.
No, that's never happened. I've asked to be actually sign a baby, and I didn't know what to do.
So what did you do?
I signed the baby. I was like, okay, yeah, the little fat arm. I just took it and.
How many signatures were on the baby?
Just mine. That was the weirdest part. And I'm like,
if you name a child Fort, you're guaranteeing that child will be a pro athlete. That's the way I look at it. Or a military dignitary of some sort, right? Yeah, it could be that too.
Well, there's a fan who told Mookie Betts, hey, if you hit a home run, I'm going to name my newborn daughter after you. And in fact, that happened.
I mean,
middle name Mookie after the homer.
What a cool name, though. I mean, it could be a lot worse. At least it's Mookie Betts. I mean, you could say, hey, I named you after Mookie, and like, who's Mookie? 10, 20 years from now, look back and say, wow, Hall of Famer outfielder, shortstop, second baseman. Dude did a little bit of everything. It's a really, really cool name.
It's also a middle name. Who cares? Go all in. Like if you're really going to do this, call the child Mookie. Name it Mookie.
Maybe they will.
Middle names can be hidden. It's a fun story for a middle name.
Touche. Well said.
Fort would be a first name.
Go all in.
Major League Baseball attendance. We've seen some shattering records in terms of the last decade or so with fans going to the ballpark. What do you make of this? And this is now nearly double-digit straight weekends of attendance continuing to rise.
I think it's more to that World Baseball Classic. I think it kicked it off. I think what they brought with the energy and everything else kind of brought a whole nother life to baseball. And then you mix in the rule changes and kind of how steady it's been all year long. And we did have a 3-hour and 45-minute game the other day in doubleheader. It was absolutely miserable. But most of these games are ending 2:15, 2:25, and fans have a little bit more predictability. So they can go out and know, hey, this is what we're doing, and we still have some of our day left. I know that fans like that, and there's a lot more entertainment. I mean, just the upgrades they did at PNC. I mean, new LED scoreboard, all types of different events going on around the stadium. And I think baseball's doing a really good job just speaking to the fans. I still think they can do a better job, especially the older fans. They're kind of pushing them away and trying to get so much in that new fan base. But they've done a really good job to make sure that, hey, these games are entertaining, they're fast, and there's a lot of good players, and they're trying to promote those players best they can. They've done a better job.
I don't think it's a knock on Major League Baseball when I ask this question. Do you think, I mean, ticket prices have remained the same, if not gone up, I'm guessing. Are they papering areas around their cities to get younger, maybe a more attentive audience than what they would have before based on the length of the game and trying to build an audience for a next generation by handing out some freebies on weekends? Again, it's not a knock. I'm just curious if that's the reason, because they're not saying about the revenue. They're just pointing to butts and seats.
I'm sure they're doing that. I mean, we do a dollar hot dog day, and especially when school gets in session, when Pitt is in town, you're gonna have a lot of kids there. And I think they've done a better job of promoting things that 18 to 25-year-olds want to come and do. And they've had really good concerts. They had a post-game concert just recently with Gabby Barrett, and it pretty much helped us sell out that game. I mean, she's a local star. She lives in Nashville. They're doing a really good job of kind of stacking things together to not only, hey, here's the product on the field, we're not playing as good as we should have, but hey, we have an awesome concert in it then. Hey, we have this thing going on right before the game. And then just like the Battery in Atlanta, if you've never seen it or never been there, I can't wait to go. It's remarkable. A lot of teams are doing that. St. Louis is doing it. We just bought almost $150 million worth of land around the stadium. The Pittsburgh Pirates did. And we're going to do the exact same thing. That's going to bring in that young crowd, that tailgating aspect that you want to see. It's really fun that they're starting to try to do a lot more like football and basketball has done to bring that young fan base.
From the positive to the negative, this Wander Franco deal in Tampa is a mess. Investigation into a social media allegation of an inappropriate relationship with a minor. That post was deleted. Just a bad situation, though, all around when you talk about one of the great young stars in the game, Michael.
Yeah, and just about 5 years ago, it happened in Pittsburgh. There was an inappropriate relationship, and Felipe Vasquez is still in prison. And that's the reality. You're gonna have consequences to certain things that you do. You're not invincible. It doesn't matter if you're a professional athlete. Doesn't matter if you're a superstar. You're not invincible. You're gonna have some type of consequence. And Major League Baseball's got this under investigation. If it gets into the legal system, God help his soul. And I'll be praying for him. I'll be praying for this entire situation. You never want to see it, and that he has a change of heart, and that it was maybe just a mishap. But at the end of the day, we got to let it play out and see what happens. Major League Baseball is going to come down as hard as possible because they don't like just about anything that makes them look bad, and they've come down hard on worse situations. So we'll see what happens. But this is one of the young stars. It's the one of the young guys we were just talking about. They're putting butts in the seats because he's exciting. He's fun. He does a lot of interesting things. He flipped the ball when he played against us up in the air and caught it and then threw it across the diamond, which you just don't see. He looked like a Harlem Globetrotter. So it's going to be interesting to see how they come down on this. There's been a lot of different things happen over the last couple of years, but this is one of them that I've seen a guy go to prison. It's year 5.
Michael McKenry, our guest, final minute or so. Fantasy football drafts are coming up just around the corner. A loser from last year had to pay up. Dave Fleming is the announcer for the Giants. Tell us what he had to do.
He was the bat boy for the day. And that's a humbling experience. If you've never done that, that is a very, very tough job. I mean, you're bringing out seeds, you're cleaning up the dugout afterwards. You have to pick up the ball like you're in Wimbledon, you're running across. It was priced. They didn't even give him a number. That was my favorite part, I think. And he had to run out there. He had no number, no name. A lot of times they'll give these bat boys, their own authentic jersey. No, not him. He didn't deserve it. He lost in fantasy football, and they made him pay. And I love that. I love when they do fun stuff like that. That's the way it should be. It's a kid's game.
Chad, what's worse, having to dress up and sing at a Walmart as Harry Styles or being a bat boy for the day?
I'd love to be a bat boy for the day. So that's not even a punishment to me. I hear that, and I'm like, this is my childhood dream, to be a bat boy for a major league team. So even as an adult, I'd love to try it out one time. So I'm all for it. But I love the fun stakes also with it.
Yeah, same. The Fort. Michael McKenry has been our guest. Always great, man. Keep up the great work, and can't wait to have you back on the show soon.
I can't wait as well. And Chad, I promise, if you want to be a bat boy, I can make that happen.
I'm in. Let me know when and where. I'm there. I'll get sunflower seeds. I will humble myself. Whatever's necessary. Big league chew. I'll bring that for the players. Whatever they need.
I'll be the spotter. I'll be the spotter for you in the booth if you need it.
I'll hustle too.
While Chad's the
You'll
bat
be
boy.
security.
I'll hustle like Kramer at the U.S. Open
fort.
getting the tennis
That's
balls.
Right.
Yeah, I'll show that level.
That
of
will
hustle.
guarantee that Chad's next daughter, maybe son, will be named Fort if you do this.
Yeah, middle name.
It's done for sure.
I'll cop out like that lady and go middle name
Got
only.
it.
Michael, good to see you, man. Appreciate you.
Good to see you guys. All right.
Coming up, after 2 years of getting a raise or staying put, where's Jim Harbaugh going to be in 2024? We'll discuss next.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation. And pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader.
I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life.
ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
I just think the way Anthony Bass handled this was so sloppy.
Oh, I think it's perfect.
And what he reposted
did
and how he did it.
He bent the knee and bowed. He was going to catch the ceremonial first pitch.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
When you're behind closed doors, when you're talking to plant managers, when you're having meetings, when you're with the team, was there an acknowledgement of any of this, an acknowledgement of the situation, the boycott, and then the doubling down about moving away from the fratty image?
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people. I'm pissed off about this. I never did it before in my life, but Trump is being cheated. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, bold taste of a Southern legend.
Just like that, the second hour is here. HotMic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick Network. Glad you're with us, either streaming live or listening live. That could be with this great radio partner or live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, OutKick.com, and much more. Just search out OutKick, and we hope you'll subscribe or follow while you're there.
If you're listening live on a radio network, you heard that great drop of Andre Benjamin from Outkast from Colin Warner earlier after I got done talking about it.
I had no idea his last name was
Great
Benjamin.
find by him. Well, 3,000 or Benjamin. I don't think 3,000 was on the birth certificate. That's not his given family name.
Yeah.
Andre 3000. But doesn't Andre Benjamin also sound like a stage name?
It fits him. Yeah.
I need to look that up now. Maybe that's like his middle name.
I reference Key and Peele a lot, but they were a great Outkast parody. I think they meet back up at a coffee shop or something. Search that out after subscribing to the channel.
And then I once watched Big Boy from Outkast at a Super Bowl party perform very late, not as late as Lil Wayne.
Side note: Big Boy played the post game. He had a post game concert.
This is Big Boy BOI.
Yeah.
For those not familiar with Outkast.
Just the show I'm referencing much worse than the one that Chad and I attended at a Super Bowl. But he was scheduled to play post game Division I, like Sun Belt kickoff, to try to get students to show up.
Butts and seats.
I was going to all the games anyway, but it did put butts in seats. And then a thunderstorm hit, a lightning hit, and like song 4, and like as soon as the lightning was even close to in range, like 10 miles, the rule is probably 8 miles out, 10 miles out. He's off the stage. The show is over. And he had, I believe, $80,000 guaranteed just to show. So they were back on the bus and back on tour.
Good night, Murfreesboro.
After 4 songs.
Right.
Part of my tuition went to that.
I love that story so much. I love in New Orleans, the concert we watched, he would rap his part, and they just had a track playing Andre Benjamin's part. This is after they broke up. But I loved it. It was still great. A lot of hits.
Chad, is it too obvious here that Jim Harbaugh is going to be a head coach in the NFL next fall? Maybe as soon this coming January. Maybe that's easier to say. After 2 years of either getting a raise or returning to what is a stacked Michigan Wolverines team this upcoming season and facing what we expect to be harsher penalties than whatever was trying to be negotiated over a 4-game span for what the NCAA is investigating. Is it too easy to link Harbaugh for real this upcoming offseason to the National Football League in his return to the pros rather than staying yet again after flirting with NFL ownership and general managers, and they're doing the same thing, mirroring his idea of returning? You think it's too simple to just say, yeah, he's going to return next year? We certainly don't know the openings yet. We can certainly speculate that. But he didn't land in Denver when many thought he would. Others thought he would be in the league 2 years ago. Some thought he would be the next coach of the Colts. That did not happen. I think he's back in the NFL next year based on what he's going to face, just like his defensive coordinator is now with the Ravens instead of with Michigan now because he was going to have a show cause headed his way.
Remember when Pete Carroll surprisingly left USC for the NFL?
Yeah, what was the timing of that?
And the Seattle Seahawks just happened to coincide with the huge NCAA investigation into impermissible benefits to Reggie Bush and others that, cost them scholarships and put them on probation. But he shockingly left for a job in the NFL with the Seattle Seahawks. This Harbaugh situation is the one that we've all figured out now. This would not be shocking at all.
No.
Because, and Michigan fans hate it when I say this, and I'm hearing from a bunch of them on this, if the NCAA did not accept their 4-game compromise for a suspension, and now they're going to be defiant about it and let him coach every game this year, I'm telling you, a full season suspension would be on the table for the NCAA. And Harbaugh's not going to play that game. He's just not. He's not going to entertain the NCAA and their investigators. Not going to happen. So, yeah, I think one of two things will happen. I think he's going to get hammered with a season-long suspension, or he's going to go to the NFL. What's the most likely of the two? the Pete Carroll move. Go to the NFL before sanctions hit you or your program, because Jim Harbaugh's in a little bit of trouble right now at Michigan, given some of the things that went on. And no, it's not, earth-shattering stuff. It rarely is in college sports. But with the NCAA, when you commit the violations and you don't cooperate, and you're seen as someone that is in the way of them getting the truth, then you're going to face the consequences. The NCAA is nothing if not petty. They have been throughout. When you lie to them or they think that you're not respecting them, they go hard. And I think they're going to do the same with Jim Harbaugh.
And he believes he's got 20 NFL players on his roster currently that will either be drafted or sign free agent contracts after the draft next April. Chad, free agents galore from the Pac-12 that's now a Pac-4. Brett Yormark compared to Klavkov in what George Klavkov was trying to do or trying to keep going with the Pac-4 now instead of 12 and really 10. On the flip side of things, based on the way the Big 12 reacted to Texas and Oklahoma departing for the SEC, Yormark has done a great job of building stability for what was a conference that we all thought would end up and be the first version of what just happened to the Pac-12 out west. Yormark joined the Sports Business Journal podcast and had this to say with some insight behind the scenes of conversations that were going on between the Big 12 and Pac-12 commissioners.
What I have learned here during expansion, and I still do have a little bit of a knot in my stomach, I never want my gain to be someone else's loss. That's a little different here. And on the heels of not Colorado, but of all four corner schools coming, I texted George, reached out to him. Obviously, he was busy. He and I spoke last week. And effectively, I said, hey, I'm sorry it came down to this. And I'm sorry I put you in a tough position, but this was something that, we had to do. And, this was something that the board and our key stakeholders encouraged. And I'm sorry that my gain is your loss. And we had a very collegial conversation. George was fantastic. And I'll be seeing him again in a couple of weeks at some industry meetings. I'm not one to hide. And again, I've been very intentional about expansion. And I did that in an effort to make sure that I didn't do it. Expansion didn't happen in someone's shadow. It didn't happen at night. It wasn't a shock and awe moment. Everyone knew the Big 12 had an appetite to expand. And I maybe some people in the industry didn't like that I was so intentional about it, but I'm very transparent. In fact, I telegraphed it. And I just felt that was the right way to do it versus other things that I witnessed and observed in our industry over time, where transparency really wasn't really what happened. I felt I had to do it a little differently, and that's really about my personality and how I do things, generally speaking.
Yormark gets it right, even in the post-assessment of what went down. And, Chad, the Big 12 commissioner, here's what struck me on his comments. The Big 12 commissioner had more empathy for the Pac-12 than a year ago with USC and UCLA. Or the Big 12 commissioner had more empathy than what Texas and Oklahoma gave the conference when they left for the SEC. Didn't want to do it, but had to do it based on the landscape of college sports, specifically football, and where we're headed in the near future compared to where we sit now and where we were a year ago or 3 years ago. Totally changed. And he also comes across as believable with this. And he works for the presidents and chancellors.
Yeah, it's a very likable interview. Just hearing him talk about it. It's also very unlikable of George Klavkov in this whole thing. If I am a Pac-12 fan and I am mourning the death of my conference, and I hear Brett Yormark talk about how great Klavkov was on the phone when he's calling to basically apologize for destroying his conference to him, I'm thinking, great, awesome.
I'm robbing
I would
you.
like a little fight back on him. Like, hey, man, you've destroyed this proud conference and my career. Go to hell, something. Instead, he was really great and gracious to me, and he understood that, I just had to take what was his and make it mine. He was very understanding of it. I'm like, good Lord.
Yeah, he called up the commissioner
If
and
you
said, hey,
are
I'm not
Stanford, Cal, or Washington State, I'm like, I'm glad that he was cordial.
It's like, hey, I'm not the fastest gazelle, but I'm also not the slowest. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah. How about some teeth, right? If you're Kliavkoff, how about a little fight back? Like, dude, I am going to spend my life trying to wreck you in your conference. I don't know how. I don't know when. But I may not win this thing, but I will hurt you at some point for doing this to us. But for your Mark, very likable, and he's right. He was very vocal in talking about the desire to expand. And this was not something secret done in the shadow of the night.
Yeah.
He was very forthcoming about what he wanted to do, and he did it.
The teeth aspect, though, comes from the TV contracts and the media deal, which your Mark has and which the Pac-12 didn't. They couldn't agree on it. That's where you can bow up a bit. And if you don't have it, the presidents and chancellors in the Pac-12 are going to leave and bolt. It's like, well, hey, Oregon and Washington are about to leave for the Big Ten. They've just opened up talks again. We're coming in for the taking as well. Arizona State, and Utah are going to lean our way now based on your recent presentation. And I think that's also part of this. They didn't finalize this until the final attempt that Friday morning to keep those three schools, and specifically the five, Oregon and Washington too, the last-ditch effort to keep those five programs in the conference compared to just signing on and announcing that they were headed elsewhere. Your Mark didn't announce it earlier than that, and it came as the Big Ten was also doing their bidding. I wonder if Petiti did the same thing, if he picked up the phone and called.
No. I don't think that's how the Big Ten and the SEC operate. David in the YouTube chat says, classy of your Mark, definitely not a move Greg Sankey would have used with Bowlesby when he took Oklahoma and Texas. I agree with that. I also think it's kind of ruthless to pick up the phone and call the guy and tell him that you're ending their conference. It's like, yeah, it's nice that he was upfront about it, but he's also calling him to tell him, hey, sorry, man, that I just had to take what was left of your conference.
It's like an election where you call to congratulate the winner, but it was reversed.
Yeah, but it's not even a congratulations. It's a condolences.
Yeah, reverse, though. Yeah.
I ended you. I won. You should have listened to me when I tried to merge 2 years ago, or we did, with your conference, and now I've got them. Look, I think some things are best left unsaid. So I get what David in the YouTube chat is saying, but is it classy? Or is it kind of rubbing it in while apologizing about ruining their conference? And if you are Bill Bowlesby at this point in the Big 12, do you want to hear from Greg Sankey? Hey, man, bummer about you losing your two best brands. They had to come with me to the SEC. Talk soon. See you at the next retreat of ADs or whatever. I don't know. I wouldn't want to hear from the person.
Well, the response is the most interesting. Oh, he could have been more gracious.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no,
I love the transparency.
I'm sure Kliavkoff said, hey, Brett, I'll be fine. All right, conference is over, but me, I'll be fine. I've got a lot of that, what was it, MGM that he was with? MGM money's rolling in. They paid me well. I'm going to negotiate a sweet little buyout. I'm going to be just fine. Don't you worry about it.
Your Mark's like, that's
Don't you worry about ending this 108-year conference the way you had to do
Rock
it.
Nation's coming for you.
All's fair in business. It's fine. I'll be all right, though. Don't you worry about me.
Chad, these international world superstar soccer players are going to be just fine with the Saudi money or not. But Neymar has now signed on to join the Saudi Soccer League. A $326 million contract is what he's agreed to. Of course, this is after Messi and Mbappe said no and decided to either stay where they were or head to a different league, in Messi's case, MLS, which has been a massive success for MLS and his team. But a part of this deal is what's interesting. $326 million, that's massive. Private jet to use whenever he wants, at his leisure. He gets a private jet. He has a mansion with personal staff that's totally paid for. $87,000 for every win with his club. And he gets $546,000 per Saudi social media post. So he gets paid $550,000 per any social post that promotes Saudi Arabia. That's part of this contract.
Is there a limit on that? Or can he just do it as many times as he wants?
Based on the money that was thrown around, I'm assuming
you get where I'm going here.
He can do it anytime he wants. You could schedule one every 60 seconds or whatever.
That's unbelievable.
That's basically what Mbappe was scheduled to make per day, is what they're giving him per tweet.
I'd like to know what the Saudi post is also. I mean, I need to follow him on social media to see what they look like, but what is he? Is it like a tourism board thing?
Anything that promotes Saudi, which could be soccer related.
Well, promotes the league or promotes the government?
The way the front office sports works
see what I'm saying, though? Like,
any
it's very broad.
media post that promotes Saudi is the way it's worded. You can spin that how – there's multiple ways to do that.
Yeah, I want to see how many he puts out there. Are we talking another $5 billion of social media posts, or is it like you can do 4 a week or 5 a week, and then we'll pay you for that?
I wonder if the negotiation was like, we'll give you $400,000 per post. And he's like, no. The counter was
$500,000, and I get to post as much as I want.
And a private jet and a mansion with staff.
I love that he negotiated a full staff.
And he gets $87,000 per win, bonused. $550,000 per tweet or social post.
It's good to be good at soccer.
Yeah. It's going to be John McClain, too. NFL headlines next with him on HotMic.
Do you feel as if, well, I'm pretty certain I know your answer because I know how I felt in college. I had to take, my major was actually chemistry at first as well. And I had to take a lot of ethics courses and different, I actually took a gender study course as well. And I felt like I had to tailor my papers a certain way to get a good grade. And what I'm noticing is across the country, that's the consensus. Even in the South, like where I went, University of Kentucky, we felt this way. And so I entirely agree with you that this is, it's happening all over. About the backlash, how I mentioned, she came out and essentially used the argument of your argument was based in white supremacy. Have you gotten a lot of backlash, or do you just kind of get the name calling, such as being called a racist for saying freedom of speech should exist?
Isn't that crazy to be called a racist? Calling out being suppressed in school. It's so weird to see where people's heads are at. But yeah, there has been a lot of backlash, a lot of name calling, obviously. And the death threats or I'm going to show up at your house. I'm like, okay, please do.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a lot of that. And like, I haven't had a ton of questioning of what I'm saying because they actually have no objection to what I'm saying. They're just like, you're transphobic. And I'm like, okay, but you have no real argument. That says a lot more about you than me. And it says that my argument is real and I actually am saying the truth and you can't even argue against that. So you're just going to call me a name.
And I love that you can acknowledge that, because this cancel culture that we live in, they want you to think you'll be canceled. They want you to be scared of the name calling. But that really is all it is. And it speaks more to their insecurities than it does to yours. I saw people on TikTok, Olivia. I saw people coming for your eyebrows. Is that what they're going to resort to? And you're right. It's because they can't dissuade from your argument, which is actually really powerful. And it should boost your confidence. I think when people can look at a situation and take the negative, such as the backlash you're getting, which does suck. There's no taking away from that. It's not fun. It's not enjoyable. It does take a toll on you. But if you can take that backlash you're getting and ultimately use it to fuel your argument, I wish more people had that same perspective that you have. But what about the positive? Have you received a lot of good feedback? Have you had a lot of doors being open for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the opportunities that I have had are just absolutely incredible. And the support from people like you and all these other speakers who have spoken up about, men in their sports. And the ones that really stick out to me are actually the parents of young girls who are messaging me and saying, I have 2 daughters who are running cross country just like you did. Thank you so much for protecting them. Thank you so much for sticking up for them in their futures. And I'm like, that's why I'm doing this. It's not really for me. It's for all of these other girls, and not even just girls, but for college students, for young men, like all of these people. I want to help them. I mean, America was built on freedom of speech. That's why we are what we are. And colleges are now trying to take that away. And like we said earlier, it's going down a bad path.
You know, Olivia, you sound like you're filled with hate. You sound just super hateful. No, how could anyone listen to your argument and say that that's hateful? I mean, I hear the compassion coming from your voice, advocating for what you're advocating for. It really is for everyone, all ages, all sexual orientations, even all gender identities. That's who you're advocating for, to be able to speak freely.
Show flying by today. Hope your workday is as well. If you're watching or listening, we say thank you to that. HotMic with Hutton Withrow rolls on here across the OutKick Network with John McClain. Time to talk all things NFL as camps and preseason games are well underway. John with Sports Radio 610 in Houston. Has covered the league for 5 decades. John, good to see you as always.
Thank you, guys. All my columns and my podcast can be found on sportsradio610.com, where there is no paywall.
Free. Hey,
free.
Dalvin Cook, not free, but served up to the Jets to sign him. And he's not coming off of a season where we didn't expect a steep decline. In fact, he's been very steady over the last 4 seasons, John. He is coming off of shoulder surgery. But here he is landing with the Jets on the same day Ezekiel Elliott is with the Patriots. What do you make of Cook to New York, where it doesn't seem or appear the Jets have had a bad day since the offseason began and Aaron Rodgers was interested?
I'm always suspect when a team gives up on a player who's supposed to be one of its best. And if they wanted to find a way to keep Dalvin Cook, they could have. And I was reminded this morning, if I'm Josh Jacobs, and I see these deals that Dalvin Cook and Zeke Elliott have gotten from the Jets and the Patriots, I'm signing that $10.1 million tender and reporting tomorrow, because that's a lot of money. Because it always says they can make up to. Well, I kept looking, okay, what are they going to make? Finally, I found it, $7 million base salary. But when it says up to, and that's the most money a back can get, I'm thinking that came straight from the agent, trying to paint as pretty a picture as possible to what's really become an ugly situation in the NFL. I thought Cook would go to Miami. The Dolphins could have used him. He's from Miami, played at Florida State, but good for the Jets. They took Breece Hall, their outstanding rookie last season, off the physically unable to perform list today. So they've got 3 running backs, and I think that's good, counting Carter. And that gives them depth. And boy, you know, Aaron Rodgers will like to have a good running game to take some of that pressure he's going to get, because everybody is going to be fired up to play the Jets and Aaron Rodgers.
What do you make of that division? Is it like the AFC West from 2 years ago, last year? Is it too much hype, or is it perfect based on the star talent, the quarterbacks, and expectation?
I saw a respected football guy tweet that the addition of Zeke Elliott shows the Patriots are contender to win the division. And I'm like, geez, even if I thought that, I would never say it. They're clearly the last place team going into the season. Could be Bill Belichick's last season. He's definitely on the hot seat, according to the longtime followers in the media who have chronicled every Super Bowl the Patriots have been in. And so he's got to win. He brought in Bill O'Brien. They act like Bill is some savior. Bill did a great job coaching Deshaun Watson, but Watson was a tremendous talent. Now he takes over Mac Jones. If you look at the quarterbacks, Josh Allen and Aaron Rodgers are definitely better. Tua Tagovailoa, when he was healthy last year, he had the best downfield passing game in the league. They were a Super Bowl contender. I think if Tua stays healthy, and that's a big if because you guys cover the SEC, and you know he's never been fully healthy for a full season, that the Dolphins are just as good as the other two teams when it comes to competing for a Super Bowl. It looks like the Patriots are going to be last. And I can't remember the last time when I thought that.
John, what'd you make of C.J. Stroud's debut with the Texans and the decision to put him behind the backup offensive line in that game that led to some pretty shaky play?
It didn't. They weren't going to play Laramie Tunsil, their best player, left tackle. Their right tackle, Titus Howard's out with a broken hand, may be ready for the first game. We don't know. Their third tackle's physically unable to perform, might not be ready when the season starts. So it wasn't the interior guys so much. They didn't start. Right guard Shaq Mason, and their center's a rookie who took over for a player done for the season, and the left guard who started, Kenyon Green, had a mediocre to poor rookie year. So I personally think it's good when rookie quarterbacks like C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, and Will Levis have adversity, because it doesn't need to be like college where it's all wine and roses. They need to know what it's like to have a pass rush come after him. Stroud took a 15-yard sack, should have thrown it down, thrown it away, but he had no prayer because the guys just blew past the offensive lineman. And then he threw an interception when he locked on a receiver, and the plan all along was to play him 2 series, and now he'll play more. They got 2 joint practices against Miami the next 2 days. So it would have been great for the media and the fans if Stroud had taken him straight down the field for a touchdown, but that would not have helped his maturation as an NFL quarterback.
Do they look much better than at this time last year on the field, John? Just visual, like, does it strike you as, oh, this is they've transformed a bit in the offseason, the Texans?
They transformed a lot with a new head coach, new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator. The biggest change last year, they had the worst offensive coaching I've seen on this team. And they're all gone, and they brought in Bobby Slowick, who'd been with Kyle Shanahan 9 years, with DeMeco Ryan 6. He's putting in the Shanahan Kubiak offense, and it takes time. They're still missing pieces. They can need another offseason. They got picks in the first, second, and third rounds, and they'll have some cap money. They need another one before we can start even daring to use the P word when it comes to Texans after 4 years of being bad. But people are fired up because DeMeco has brought a new energy. He was a great defensive coach for the 49ers, doesn't have that talent. And their first order of business will be to try to improve against the run. I have a column on sportsradio610.com about that, how they've just been pathetic for 4 years after being number 2 in the league. And coaches come and go, players come and go. And DeMeco thinks with coaching and with attitude, you can take a big chunk out of that 170 yards a game average. Now, they had starters out, Patriots had starters out, and they gave up 2.2 yards of carry to the Patriots to the last series when New England brought in rookie quarterback Malik Cunningham, and he just ran. And as it was, they still only gave up 74 yards rushing. So to me, that was the most positive thing for this franchise, because in December, they're going to see Derrick Henry twice, and they haven't been able to stop Derrick since probably his second or third year in the league.
John, I try not to overreact to preseason games because starters are barely playing. We do see the rookies quite a bit. Bryce Young, and the decision to trade up and draft him number 1 in Carolina, and his stature. And you mentioned Tua, if he can stay healthy. Bryce Young's stature behind the offensive line for Carolina that did not look good in their debut with him in a full go practice. What do you make of that? And are we watching kind of the same thing play out because of his size and the disadvantage that he has behind what looks to be a shaky offensive line, at least from first glance?
I've talked to 2 former general managers who are in the media now about Young and Stroud and Richardson and Levis. And when it comes to to Young, you say you're going to hold your breath every time he goes on the field because he looks frail, but he's smart. He's instinctive. He's got awareness, pocket presence. He'll be able to get out of a lot of negativity, but you worry about that big hit. You worry about the wear and tear on him over the course of a full season. And they're got to spend a lot of money, and whether it's draft choices or free agent next offseason to improve the line significantly. Texans thought they had. My goodness, the Texans have addressed the offensive line for years, changed coaches 4 years in a row. That lack of instability is just pathetic, doing a disservice to the players. But you keep doing it till you get it right, especially when you're going to invest heavily in a player quarterback.
It's a strong offensive line in Dallas, and it didn't get much of the national sports talk attention, but I think an important move was Zach Martin, who was disgruntled with his contract, 8-time All-Pro, 8-time Pro Bowler, and the decision to go ahead and get it done, even though Jerry was like, hey, we're saving our money. We've got to make sure that Micah Parsons is going to get the extension. We're spending our money elsewhere. 2 years, $36 million for an essential piece of that offensive front. Instead of, John, letting this play out towards the start of the season, like so many organizations will do when a player's sitting out and waiting.
When you are on a veteran contract, meaning not your rookie contract, the fines that you incur have to be paid back. You cannot let them go. Like Nick Bosa in San Francisco, he's on his rookie contract. And so when the time comes that he reports, they'll say, okay, forget about it. They can't do that with Martin. So Martin lost a lot of money, and that was designed in the CBA to keep veterans from holding out. He would have reported. He would have been unhappy. He's been a good soldier and a great player. And so Jerry Jones did right by him.
Yeah, and I think he ends up with this year $8 million in new money, and he'll have to pay back $1 million in fines or something. It's around that number, but you're right. It does add up, and there is incentive to get into camp.
I'll tell you guys something, thinking about Zach Martin. There was a time when guards were an afterthought. You took centers, made them guards. You took guards, made them centers. Only people thought about were the tackles because the edge rushers coming after the quarterback. And Zach Martin, as you mentioned, 8-time Pro Bowler. Will he do more for the Cowboys this season than Josh Jacobs or Saquon Barkley could do for their teams? And the question, it's no. A running back's going to attribute a hell of a lot more than a guard. But the problem is nobody had come up with analytics to say you can plug in guards from the 4th round on down. You're crazy to pay guards. Here's the evidence. Till that happens, backs are still going to take a back seat to players like guards and centers.
John McClain with us. He certainly knows sports cinema, sports film. Having
the man has lived it.
John's cameo, absolutely. What do you make of The Blind Side allegedly being a lie, according to Michael Orr in a court document that he and his attorney filed yesterday here in the state of Tennessee, saying he didn't find out that he wasn't legally adopted until this past February?
Michael Lewis wrote that book. It was a tremendous book. He did Friday Night Lights as well. He lived it. And a friend of mine, John Lee Hancock, who's a director, called me up and he said, are you familiar with the book The Blind Side? I said, yes, haven't read it, read about it. He said, I've just signed to direct it. And he said, it's a great story. He said, I think we're going to make a great movie. And they did. And they made a lot of money. Sandra Bullock was Best Actress playing Leanne Tui. So I was stunned by this. Sean Tui, the husband who sold his company for $213 million, you would have thought, the attorneys came to him and said, hey, you need to give Michael some money. And he was, no, I'm not giving him. He could have. Now, he claims in an interview today with I think it was a Memphis Commercial Appeal, that they didn't get anything.
Daily Memphian.
Is that it?
Yeah.
For $25,000 for each family member, including Michael. So those contracts will be easy to look up when they were signed. But he admitted in this interview they didn't legally adopt Michael Orr. And I know when Orr came to the combine, The book was out. They were talking about the movie, and we asked him about it. He didn't want to talk about it. He just said there's a lot of things that are out there that are not true. And I hate that it's come to this. And if he got shafted, I hope he gets everything that he deserves.
John, there is a headline right now, TMZ, a tweet I just saw, that said there is a movement to get Sandra Bullock to return her Oscar for Best Actress because the movie was a fraud, which I'm thinking that's an even better acting job by her if Leanne Tui was really a fraud and she made her so likable. That's more warranted for her Oscar nod.
Cadillac, that is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard.
So dumb. So dumb, John.
Break.
You must return
She
it.
went with what the script said, which came from the book, which they took some license. And you don't have to have a real story. They take license with every story.
Yeah.
And so whoever comes up with some far-fetched stupidity like that ought to be ostracized.
Chad, maybe it's actually Leanne Tui that wants the Best Actress award for this story.
I will take that now. This is mine. I convinced everyone that I know that I'm a good person, and I am not.
That we adopted Michael.
Yeah.
Well,
John,
we're all assuming that everything in that lawsuit
I know.
is true.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm with you,
Everybody
John. I think
around
truth
the
is somewhere in the
country
middle. Yeah.
It's a soap opera.
I want to hear the evidence. I want to see how much money the company made, how much money the Tui's made. That's easy to process. It's not like they're being handed cash. And so at some point, I'm guessing since Sean Tui sold that company for $213 million.
Hey, Davey Hudson of OutKick here. We are at SEC Media Days 2023 in Nashville, Tennessee. We're going to go talk to some players, see what they have to say. What's the best purchase you've made from an NIL deal so far?
Tag watch right here.
Far.
Best purchase? I probably just give it back to my son for real. That's probably my best purchase every time.
Man, paid my truck off. Definitely.
A house. My wife and I bought a house, so that's been huge. Being able to save that money up and buy a house.
This chain here.
The best purchase? I'd probably say helping my mom out with school.
Ooh, the best purchase? Probably the shoes. The shoes I got on right now.
The best purchase I made, well, the best NIL deal I've had is free steaks from Marksbury Farms, so keep me fed and beefed up.
With it?
Ooh, purchase? Probably a new golf bag. Or recently I played TPC Sawgrass this past weekend, and that was from I used that money from a deal I made, so that's up there too.
Probably getting my sister through college, helping my family out a lot. That's probably my best purchase I've done.
Best purchase? Probably my my mom and dad anniversary gift.
The best purchase I've made? I got a yoga mat the other day, and that's helped me a lot. Just flexibility and everything like that, so probably that.
Best purchase? My smile. Best purchase? I would say my best purchase was having my school supply drive.
Landon, what is your favorite sports movie of all time?
Remember the Titans for sure. Sport movie, I say Love and Basketball. That's my favorite.
Got to be Remember the Titans for sure.
Remember the Titans, and it's top movie ever.
Probably Longest Yard.
I'd probably say Like Mike with Bow Wow. Yeah.
My favorite sports movie? Remember the Titans.
Air Bud.
Perfect answer, actually.
I really don't know. I don't have one.
Movie? I haven't seen many, but does Sandlot count?
Favorite sports movie of all time? Probably Coach Carter.
Ooh, sports movie. Probably The Express.
Happy Gilmore.
The Little Giants.
Amari, what was your most favorite sports movie growing up?
Remember the Titans.
Barbie or Oppenheimer? Which one are you and the boys seeing first?
I don't know the other one, but definitely not Barbie.
Oppenheimer, gotta be. I'm not against the Barbie movie though. I tried to recommend it. I was shut down pretty fast.
Oppenheimer. Come on now. You don't need to ask me that question. Oppenheimer looks good though.
What's Oppenheimer?
It's a movie about the atomic bomb. It's the big thing that comes out this Thursday.
Yeah, probably that.
Oppenheimer.
Wait, what was the other one?
Barbie or Oppenheimer?
The opposite of Barbie. The opposite of Barbie. Yeah, so I'm not.
We're going to see Oppenheimer and then follow with Barbie.
Solid choice.
I don't even know what Oppenheimer is. I don't want to see Barbie, though.
Oppenheimer, 100%.
Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer.
Say a little bit louder.
Oppenheimer.
Oh, we're going to watch both of them. Maybe on the same night. We'll probably watch. I think you got to watch Barbie first. Just so you're not, Oppenheimer might be a little too intense. You know what I'm saying? So you warm up with Barbie and then you go to the Oppenheimer.
The second one. Oppenheimer.
Barbie or Oppenheimer? Which one are you and the boys seeing first?
Barbie.
HotMic rolls on. Coming up in about 40 minutes, Christian Hackenberg will join us, former Penn State quarterback. Can't wait to get his reaction to where Penn State currently sits in the AP Top 25 preseason poll, number 7 overall. HotMic with Honey Withrow here. And Chad, no question that Georgia sits atop.
Oh, no question.
Not unanimous.
Three-peat, going for the three-peat.
Reese Davis was one of 2 media members to put Michigan number 1, and vote them number 1 preseason. Michigan currently number 2 behind the Bulldogs as Georgia goes for the three-peat. Michigan and Ohio State back-to-back, 2 and 3. They're going to sit there for a while because we went through their schedules earlier this week. Alabama at 4. That's intriguing based on the quarterback situation.
Yeah, Ohio State at Notre Dame on October 23rd. Michigan against Penn State on November 11th are probably the 2 earliest chances for those teams. Anything could happen, but what looks like legit chances on paper to drop one.
Yeah, and I wonder, LSU at 5 reminds me that Ohio State has Penn State and Wisconsin back-to-back. LSU at 5. Can Wisconsin with Luke Fickell be this year's version of LSU last year? That surprise some teams and get better faster than what we thought. LSU at 5. SC at 6, followed by Penn State. Caleb Williams got the Trojans in the top 10. Florida State at 8. Clemson and Washington round out the top 10. Any surprises there too? I'm a bit surprised where Alabama sits, quite frankly.
That too high or too low?
I'm saying too high based on the quarterback.
I think they are so rock solid everywhere else. That the assumption is whoever they play is going to have such a good surrounding cast, they're going to be okay. That doesn't surprise me. I'll give you a couple.
Let me just step in on Bama real quick.
Okay.
You and I have been in attendance with some recent scares. They haven't lost, but Bryce Young has played excellent. LSU comes to mind 2 years ago. Night game in Tuscaloosa. LSU had no business being in that game. It's 10-9 or something in the fourth quarter. Do they have that guy that can drive down and get a field goal or drive and have the luxury of having the leader at quarterback that can just extend a drive and time of possession and run out the clock? That will come into play for a team that isn't used to losing 2 games in what would be considered a retooling, rebuilding year, as Saban would put it. The perception of Bama this year is built on what you're saying. They're solid everywhere else. For me, that's not quite good enough because of the quarterbacks ahead of them and just behind them, guys like Caleb Williams and others.
So, look, I'm with you on that. A few big takeaways. One, boy, that first weekend game between LSU and Florida State. Holy cow. 8 versus 5 on Sunday in its own window of time, Labor Day weekend. To watch that is going to get monster ratings. And it was a crazy game a year ago, if you remember, down in the Superdome, or whatever they call the stadium now in New Orleans. That'll be great. Texas is a little high for my liking at 11. I think Tennessee's right around where I expected them to be. I thought Texas was going to be more of a close to 20, high teens type team. Number 11 surprises me. Michael Penix Jr. is terrific for Washington. That's why they're there at 10. They had a great first year with their head coach, Kalen DeBoer, in their system, and he's perfect for that system. I like that one. I think TCU might surprise me a little bit at 17 because they lost so much off that team a year ago. This is more of a statement of they're here to stay. I think with all the losses they had from last year's team that made it all the way to the national championship game, a little bit surprising. I think Ole Miss and A&M at 22 and 23 jumped out to me, Hutton, initially. I think Ole Miss might be a little bit overrated.
I agree.
I was surprised they were ranked ahead of A&M, quite frankly. I was surprised they were in the top 25. I think this is more of a team probably ranked in the 30s or 40s nationally, but they're all the way up at number 22. That shows a lot of respect for Lane Kiffin and a lot of respect for Drake May for North Carolina at 21 because that's the only reason they're there at 21.
So how LSU starts at number 5, the preseason best for them since 2016 in this poll. Bama is the lowest it's been in more than a decade, and they sit at 4. This is the lowest they've been preseason ranked in more than 10 years. So maybe they are putting respect with everything else and saying, hey, we're going to rank you a spot lower than usual because of the quarterback situation. They're going to play 2 quarterbacks. I don't know. I think it's just I'm saying that because we're not hearing of a clear leader, period, there. That's a huge storyline for the very top shelf of college football.
I've also seen a lot of video of Nick Saban post-practice with media availability.
Yeah.
And he is so super relaxed and joking around that the rest of college football should be very nervous about whatever he has at quarterback and whatever he knows that no one else knows. I would be very nervous.
Point taken.
About Saban and Alabama.
Of course, next year, I'm just looking at the teams on the move next year. OU, you've got Oklahoma move to the SEC. They're ranked 20th. Looking around a bit of other teams on the move, anything stand out to you?
Well, Oklahoma was terrible in Brent Venables' first year.
Oregon at 15.
Yeah. Oregon State at 18.
Yeah.
They're conference-less right now moving forward, unless the Pac-4
and a new stadium
is able to merge. Yeah. Kansas was the feel-good story of a year ago, right? With a great start to their season, not in the top 25, but Oregon State is there. Tulane right back in the top 25 is really cool to see with Willie Fritz. So it's going to be a fun season. I can't wait, but the first thing that jumps out is opening weekend, Sunday night, exclusive window, LSU, Florida State. Terrific opening week matchup.
The average AP preseason ranking for the national champion is the top 25 getting more successful, the voters, at preseason rankings. Most recently, the average ranking for the champ has been ranked 3 or higher. Is it that predictable this year?
Well, you know what is predictable? Who's dominating the AP top 25? It's the SEC and Big Ten. With 6 teams in the SEC, 5 in the Big Ten. You know what's not predictable for most people? The Pac-12 is far and away the 3rd best conference in college football this year. I don't think it's close. I think it's SEC and Big Ten, slight drop-off Pac-12, and then a big drop-off to the Big 12 and ACC this year. Yet it is the Pac-12 that is no more after this year. So, hey, glass half full approach. At least your final year as a league is going to be glorious. Could be a fireworks type season for the Pac-12. And Caleb Williams trying to win back-to-back Heisman trophies, first player since Archie Griffin in 72 and 73 at Ohio State to do it.
Different styles, but certainly big offense out west. Good defense too with Utah, for instance.
Yeah.
Chad, we're coming up in about 10 minutes. We've got a look at what could be on the horizon, not from a 64-team perspective, as Chip Kelly threw out there, but 32. You're going to have some divisions and breaking up what could be the college NFL for college football.
How do you see this notepad right here? You see a lot of erasing that took place on this?
Yes.
Let me, before we get into it, coming up here in about 10 minutes, let me put this out there because I put this on Twitter and Tim Brando and others have come back at me saying, why are you feeding into this? college football season's right around the corner. Let's talk about this college football season. Well, we just did that with the AP poll. I want to preface this by saying this is not what I want. If Chad Withrow was the commissioner of college football, I would try to find ways to keep it the way it has been while also embracing what's to come in the future of NIL and transfer portal and everything else, but maintaining rivalries and establishing that. This exercise is an exercise in greed. You know who else is exercising greed? Everyone in college football that makes big decisions right now. They're making every decision based solely on money. Solely on money. I'm not talking about money as the ultimate driver and top of the list. Money is the list. So I did what is going to happen if they continue to make money the only list. And that is to replicate the NFL, the most successful pro sports franchise league in America. They're going to replicate it. So I have the NFL of college football, 32 teams, 4 divisions of 8 teams each, and this is it. We'll get into it a little bit later, but I want people to understand I'm not advocating for this. I am simply a truth teller that's showing you what the future will look like if the greedy people at the top of college sports continue to make all the decisions. Because there's not any decisions being made right now with the welfare of all student athletes at mind. It's about football. Football's the driver. Football can be played bi-coastal. It's not as big of an issue to travel across the country for one sporting contest a week. And it's making the most money. And ADs, college presidents, conference commissioners, they're letting football drive everything, and the money involved with media deals and media rights in football, they base every decision based on that. I'm basing my group of 32 based mostly on that, with a little personal preference mixed in. And
so Vanderbilt's in?
Not in. I'm a fan of geography.
Okay.
And geography plays a part in this also.
Good.
There's a couple of teams on there that people are going to say, what? And they're going to advocate for
San Diego
others.
State.
And I'm going to tell you about geography also with it.
A geography lesson. I love it. I can't wait for that. It's coming up in a few minutes.
Can we talk more, by the way, about how people are trying to get Sandy Bullock to turn over her Oscar? I saw that headline, and I almost visibly on the show, Hutton, just hit my mic with my head when I first read it, that there is a group on Twitter, an activist group, calling for Sandra Bullock to hand over her Best Actress Oscar for portraying Leanne Toohey in The Blind Side because Michael Oher has filed a grievance in court with the Toohey family. Just crazy. And I'll say what I said yesterday. I think the truth in all this is somewhere in the middle. I don't think the Tooheys are completely, not corrupt in every way. And I also don't think that Michael Oher, and I believe Sean Jr. when he says, I went back and looked at text in 2020 and 2021 where he was complaining about the conservatorship. So that statement about, I knew about this in 2023,
found out for the first time. But also the more of what Toohey said was Michael Oher, this is alleged to have sent text in 2020 or 2021 and said, pay me this amount and it won't go public. Right? So he's at least acknowledging something in regards to that. Maybe he's acknowledging something else and not this paperwork. Who knows? But the whole story is crazy. And adding to it is Sandra Bullock going to even have to acknowledge this? Can you imagine? That headline from one of these.
I think that she's got she doesn't have to, but I think she'll release some sort of statement at some point.
After learning about this, the best
After
actress
learning about this,
is Leanne Toohey.
We got to find out who she beat. I need to find out who we're going to hand the Oscar to from that year. This was 2009.
That's right.
The movie came out.
Yeah. Is it like what was
Hutton,
that?
Let's do this.
Was
I'm
that
going to look it
Avatar?
up.
You were going through the movies yesterday for the same league or same year. If it is, can you imagine if they have to turn it over? This is like Reggie Bush having to turn over the Heisman, and everyone wanted to hand it to Vince Young, and Vince was like, "No, it's actually Reggie's Heisman," even though the NCAA is trying.
I mean, how is when I look at I looked
the
up
Heisman Trust.
Who did Sandra Bullock beat for the Oscar, and the first thing that pops up is a group Facebook page If you want any other evidence that Meta and Zuckerberg and Elon Musk are running the world, how would that be the first thing that pops up on Google? It's just someone's Facebook page.
Here it is. So it's Meryl Streep. It's actually the 2010 awards.
That's what I was. It's
Helen Mirren. I don't know who finished second.
What movies were they in?
Julia and Julia.
That was Meryl Streep. Yeah, Julia
The
Child.
Last Station for Helen Mirren.
Haven't seen it.
Carrie Mulligan in An Education.
Okay. Missed that one also.
Natalie Portman in Black Swan.
Natalie Portman in Black Swan. I've seen that. It was an excellent performance. Natalie Portman, congratulations.
Jennifer Lawrence in Winter's Bone.
I did not watch Winter's Bone. I've watched
Nicole Kidman
many
in Rabbit
other
Hole.
Jennifer Lawrence projects, but have not seen that one.
10 different actresses nominated for Best Actress in 2010. Coming up,
congrats, Natalie Portman.
We find out who Chad would nominate for the college football NFL next.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation. And pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
I just think the way Anthony Bass handled this was so sloppy.
Oh, I think it's perfect.
And what he reposted and how he did it.
He bent the knee and bowed. He was going to catch the ceremonial first pitch.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
When you're behind closed doors, when you're talking to plant managers, when you're having meetings, when you're with the team, was there an acknowledgement of any of this, an acknowledgement of the situation, the boycott, and then the doubling down about moving away from the fratty image?
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people. I'm pissed off about this. I never did it before in my life, but Trump is being cheated. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, the bold taste of a Southern legend.
Just like that, the final hour is here on this Tuesday edition of Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow. Glad you're with us. Over the next 60 minutes, plenty to discuss across college football. Christian Hackenberg, former Penn State quarterback, he will be with us in 20 minutes.
Hutton, people have accused me of zoning out and like texting and doing things while you're talking.
Yeah.
And what I'm actually doing most of the time, like right now, is tweeting out a link to our show when something's going on.
I'll do the same right now.
You'll see it. Like, it's easier because of the way I tweet the YouTube link on my computer, and then I tweet the Twitter link from my phone. It's easier. So sometimes I am on my phone actually doing stuff for the show, too. I just want to
I never
correct
thought you
people.
were.
Just like when Adam Schefter is on his phone on the set on ESPN, and he's looking at his phone the whole time, and I find it kind of funny the way he does it because no one else does that. He's actually working. He is reading and responding to texts that are newsworthy, I'm sure.
Chad, from TMZ, the Tui family claims that Michael Orr attempted a $15 million shakedown before the court filing.
There we go.
From the report, the Tui family claims that before Michael Orr made outlandish, hurtful, and absurd allegations about them in court on Monday, he actually tried to shake them down for $15 million.
Wow.
This is just getting started.
So if they can prove that, and it sounds like little Tui, SJ, Sean Tui Jr., the way he said I went back and saw texts from 2020 and 2021 about that,
well,
not going to bode well.
Or
for Michael Orr.
Or that's whatever they came up with on the 2.5% and getting his fair share of the all of the money that came after the $250 payment.
I think there is a solid chance that they made money after the fact that they cut Orr out of. The family did, based on what Tui Jr. said. But if they have text and correspondence that show that Michael Orr essentially knew about it and was blackmailing them for money and shaking them down, then filed a lawsuit years later, that's not going to bode well with this lawsuit from Michael Orr. It also is not going to look good for the Tui family if, in fact, they made more money than they're claiming off the movie.
Yeah, from the attorney on behalf of the Tuis, the notion that a couple worth hundreds of millions of dollars would withhold a few $1,000s in profit participation payments from anyone, let alone from someone they loved as a son, defies belief. Here we go. Buckle up. Looking forward to Christian Hackenberg joining us in about 18 minutes or so. Chad, you mentioned this at the end of the last hour. The NFL of college football. And this is an exercise that you wanted to take a stab at based on the comments that Chip Kelly and others have made of, hey, just take the top 64 in Division I at the highest level and break them up into their own independent status and their own different group. Take the remaining 64, and they're also playing for a national championship as well, and it should sort things out. Well, your response earlier, end of last week, was, hey, why not? Why 64? Why not look at it from a 32-team perspective the way the NFL has with their divisions and conferences? Where did you start with this, and did you find it more difficult than what you may thought it would be?
I found it more difficult, and here's one thing that it was difficult for me. The math of it was harder from this perspective. This would have been easier for me to break it out into 36 teams, I think.
Okay.
So I think 6-team divisions would have been, the final product would have been less controversial. Because there are a few in there that are very similar to other programs that you would say, well, why this one over that one?
3 or 4, you're saying.
And quite frankly, my argument is because I say so.
Okay.
Well, and because geographically
and
it makes
region,
more sense.
Yeah,
and region makes sense. And
so you have
a lot of other reasons. But anyway.
You're breaking this up east, northwest.
Look, I again, this is not what I want. But this is the understanding of if it's all going to be about money and we're headed in that direction, if you were going to collectively bargain, you want to do it the way the NFL does it. That's why they make all the money. Everyone watches the games, and they are a strong 32-team unit that just knocks the crap out of everyone. They steamroll their NFL Players Association. They steamroll the networks. They get everything done, and they make all sorts of money because of it. So instead of going, like Chip Kelly said, a 64-team super division, why split it amongst 64 teams when there's going to be some really not ever pulling their weight?
Mm-hmm.
Let's be strategic and go to 32. So with that out of the way, my 32-team NFL of college football super division. We begin in the East Division. I'm making this so NFL, I'm not even changing the names of the way they would. It's going to be East, South, North, West.
Okay.
The East. Controversy number one, Hutton. Syracuse would be in this. Now, you may argue, what has Syracuse done lately? Their attendance is not great. Syracuse has won multiple national championships. Syracuse is the biggest football program in the state of New York. That is an important state for what I'm building. Clearly, the state of New York is a big state for the NFL when you look at the Buffalo Bills and the two New York teams. I want the biggest program in the state of New York in my super conference. So Syracuse makes the cut. Penn State. Penn State is not a Midwest school to me. It is a Northeastern power. It was under Joe Paterno. They're in the Big Ten, but they make sense for the East. Florida State, Miami, Florida, Georgia. I love that four-pack in the same conference, all Eastern time zone, some coastal, like them in the East. And then North Carolina, Notre Dame. This is one where geography, got to play some games, right? But, you know, the Indianapolis Colts are in the AFC South, so geography always doesn't hold. But Notre Dame would be in the East with North Carolina and the rest of these teams.
Okay, and just first glance here, just a quick reminder, this is about football. This is, not program, athletic program. If not, you could argue UConn, but again, this is football. Also, this is where
Good
Duke.
point. This has nothing to do with any other
This is
sport.
where Duke would have been. And North Carolina's there. Of course, NC State is not. Duke is not on this list. So I just want to point that out, too, because I'm just looking at the teams you have here. Georgia, Florida, Miami, Florida State.
Well, and let's kind of go. I want to go through it, Hutton, because Duke may appear on another list. You don't know, on another region, but
interesting.
They don't.
Okay.
But I want to get through all of them because then we'll
knowing your parameters. This is where they would have been.
We'll get through the exclusions afterward. And,
right.
and good point. This is all college football. This has nothing to do with any other sport. None of that's taken into consideration. So let's go next to the South. South Division, very similar to the SEC, but also not. LSU, Tennessee, Alabama, Auburn, Clemson, Texas A&M, Texas, TCU. So you have, I don't think anyone can argue with LSU, Tennessee, Alabama as brands and eyeballs and money they bring in. Clemson also in football, same way. A&M, Texas, powerful. Auburn, I don't think you can write the history of college football without including Auburn in that history. So, yes, they are the second school in the state of Alabama. They're in a very small town, but it's Auburn. And they've won a national championship in the last 15 years. So Auburn makes the cut. TCU, a growing brand, big market, also in there. This is my South Division. Hutton, any issues with this one?
Now, Auburn is clearly, to me, the last team in of the South Division. Over an Ole Miss. I'm trying to think of the others that would have factored in to your debate.
TCU was my last in. Auburn was right ahead of them. But you're close.
Okay.
Auburn was one of the tough ones.
The others are no-brainers here, based on the significance and the powers that they've been or currently are across the college football landscape.
North Division. This is where you would think would be very Big Ten-centric, and you'd be right.
By the way, the South is the money division. That's
It is.
the way I would describe
I
it.
think this is a pretty good.
North is great.
Pretty good money division also. Ohio State, Michigan State. I wrestled back and forth with Michigan State making this list. They were a late addition. I'll tell you who I was debating between Michigan State on. There's a couple teams. Nebraska, that's another one. What have they done lately? Again, you cannot write the history of college football without including Nebraska, and they've got a huge and great fan base also. Matty Ice's Iowa Hawkeyes barely made the cut, but made the cut nonetheless.
Because of their brand of offense, not because of their significance.
I received a text from David Hookstead of OutKick saying that he's going to disavow the list if Wisconsin's not on it. Don't worry, Hookstead. Wisconsin makes the list in the North Division. Oklahoma and, wait for it, Arkansas. Arkansas was a tough one for me. They were one of the this is like the NCAA tournament hunt, and they're a last four in on this whole list.
They've
But
been sent to the north, to
Arkansas,
the wall.
there's some power there. There's some good branding there. They have been sent north of the wall. But Arkansas in the North Division with Oklahoma. Shall we go west?
We should. However, I'm looking at the Big Ten significance here, and I understand where Penn State is in the division, but this is a huge, just based on the hypotheticals here. This is a big win for Penn State to not have to play in the North Division of this league you're putting together.
Well, yes and no. I mean, they still have to play Notre Dame, Florida, Georgia, Florida State, Miami. So they got to go way south.
But they're not losing Ohio State and Michigan every year.
No. They'll just lose to Florida and Georgia every year instead. Let's go west. This is the final division. So, again, 4 8-team divisions getting to 32 teams. This is a 32-team super conference, power programs in all of college football. Colorado. Deion Sanders helps. Geography helps. They've won a national title in the last 40 years. That helps in as part of this. So I put the Buffs on the list. Utah, I think, is one that is a huge growth potential as a program. Geography also helped the Utes. You know what else helped them? Their natural rival, BYU. BYU is one of the most underrated, huge programs in America. They have national and international reach because of the Mormon Church, and they're tied to it.
That's a great rivalry for the Big 12 currently.
BYU, Utah, Colorado feels right in the West Division of this college football super conference. You know who else feels right? USC. You know who doesn't? UCLA. I thought UCLA was an add-on the whole time with the Big Ten deal. I don't see their value as much in college football. I don't. If this is a basketball, all-sports division, sure. UCLA makes the cut. Not for my football conference. Oregon does. Washington does. Baylor does in Texas. Baylor, the most eastern of the teams in the West Division. Stanford is currently without a conference, but I have them in my 32-team super conference. Why? I think it is important to have at least one or two, and I'm counting Notre Dame in on this as well, academically minded private schools in this division.
Who want to do both.
And Stanford's one of those. And Stanford's been really good at football also throughout the years. They've had down times like anyone else, but they were very good under David Shaw. They've been very good in the past. So Stanford makes the cut. So those are the 32 teams, Hutton. Is there anyone that jumps out to you as you look at them right now as a clear omission?
Was Colorado the last team in?
Colorado, I'll give you my last few I debated on.
Well, so the other program, as I'm looking through, where is Pitt?
Pitt was not under heavy consideration, and I'll tell you why. When there was a program that was clearly ahead of them within their state that I thought brought the value of that state with it, Tennessee and Vanderbilt here locally, an example, right? Like you get the middle Tennessee market, you get all that with Tennessee and the branding. So if you're clearly second, way behind and don't offer enough value, then I don't put you on the list. That's why Pitt didn't make it. The toughest ones for me were Michigan State. I went back and forth on Minnesota.
Okay.
Minnesota, Purdue, Michigan State were tough ones for me. Kansas State.
K-State was one I wrote down too.
Was a tough one. K-State, between K-State, Colorado, Utah, were ones that I debated also. Missouri. There may be some Missouri fans upset about this list. I'll give you another one. Kentucky was on and off the list 3 or 4 times.
If you're mentioning them, that you've got to mention Mississippi State, Ole Miss.
Mississippi State, honestly kind of crossed each other out. Whether that's fair or not on my list, that crossed out the state. I couldn't really decide elevating one over the other, and I don't think, even in the terms of the SEC, they're bottom 4 of the SEC of brand, of location. So that knocked them out of my list. I really did just start with Let me go SEC Big Ten no-brainer. And that list was about 7 deep with each. All right, started the 2 most powerful. And then I added from there. Then I went, all right, ACC, Big 12, Pac-12, no-brainers. That list was smaller of teams at the very top. And then you get into the debate of teams on this one, probably 28 to 38 was the cutoff, right? There were probably 6 teams that didn't make it that I legitimately considered for it that didn't make the cut.
Any legitimate interest in any non-Power 5 school or program? Central Florida has been on a run, and not as good recently, but they certainly stake their claim to unbeaten seasons.
And they're now in the Big 12. You know, they're headed there this year. So I considered Central Florida, Houston, Cincinnati, all making the move to the Big 12. Didn't really come close. Pittsburgh was closer of those type of schools, the city schools. Pittsburgh was closer to the top of the list. But honestly, I feel pretty good about this. I mean, you could make arguments for Kentucky over someone or Pittsburgh over someone or whatever it may be, but I know it's my list, so it's shocking that I feel so good about it.
I'd love to see the.
I look at these 32. I'm like, this is pretty right.
I want to know who's representing the College Football Players Association as part of their union, and I'm assuming Greg Sankey is your commissioner.
This takes all lawsuits out of it too when I factor this in, because people are like, oh well, the other 32 will just sue. Well, yeah, probably for not being included, but don't care.
Christian Hackenberg, former Penn State quarterback, with us next on HotMic.
Two biggest social media giants, Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, are set to battle it out, and I'm here on Broadway asking people who they put their money on. Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk, they're gonna fight each other. Who do you think's gonna win?
I think Mark's got him.
Really?
Yeah.
Why do you think that?
Because he's a man.
Okay, and Elon Musk isn't?
Oh, well, of course, he got money.
Okay.
He's got money. Money, well, money's money.
Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg in a fight?
I don't know. I'm going to go with Musk.
Why?
It just seems like he's a little bit younger, a little bit smarter.
You just got a good feeling about him?
I got a good feeling.
Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg?
Musk.
Why?
He trains. That guy's going to beat his
But Mark Zuckerberg is actually training jiu-jitsu for 9 months.
Not happening. Not Elon Musk all day. Elon Musk.
Why do you think?
He has no soul. I mean, I think he's definitely just going to no holds barred.
Elon Musk.
Why do you think that?
I don't know. I feel like he's stronger and smarter.
Oh, Elon Musk.
All the way? Why?
All the way. He's an animal. Think about it.
Mark Zuckerberg's been training for 9 months jiu-jitsu. You think Elon Musk can take him?
Yeah, I think he could take him.
Elon, that oh God, stop playing with Elon. Elon really do this out here, for real.
I hope Elon
Really? Why do you think so?
got better ideas.
Zuckerberg's like 5'7", 155. Musk is 6'1", 190. But Zuckerberg's been training jiu-jitsu for 9 months. Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg, who's going to win in a fight?
Oh, Elon Musk. No doubt.
Why do you think so?
He's the GOAT. I've been seeing all the Twitter handles and all the talk, and I'm on Elon Musk's side. I'm ready for them to get in the WWE ring and then come off the top rope. That's what I want to see. I want to see a people's elbow to Mark Zuckerberg.
If one was more likely to be a lizard or a robot, who would it be?
Elon.
Okay.
I think Mark Zuckerberg will win.
Why do you think that?
Because I think he already trains MMA, so he's got like the prior experience and stuff. I mean, they're both billionaires, so they have the opportunity to get the best training. But I think Mark Zuckerberg will pull away with the win.
Elon Musk.
Why do you think so?
Because he's bigger.
Bigger, okay, but Mark Zuckerberg's been training jiu-jitsu for 9 months. Do you think that matters?
No.
Zuckerberg, he's part alien or robot, so he may have some secret powers that we don't know about.
I was going to say, is that an advantage? Does he have an advantage over Elon Musk then?
Yeah, I mean, if he, sheds his skin and becomes an alien and eats everyone, yeah, I think so.
Elon Musk is mental, so Elon Musk.
All it is this, he's mental, he's mentally crazy, so...
He just wouldn't care, would he?
Okay.
He'd just absolutely go for it. I think Zuckerberg would be a bit more refrained.
Okay.
If that should ever happen, which I doubt, but you never know, it'd be entertaining.
Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg?
Elon Musk.
Why?
Because my dad is in love with Elon Musk.
Okay.
I think I'm going to have to go with
Zuckerberg. I mean, Threads just came out, so who do you think would win?
Zuck.
Why do you think so?
Because he's not a real human. He's a robot.
So he'll use that to his advantage.
Yeah, and all the Krav Maga stuff too. Yeah.
Yeah. Who do you think would win in a fight, Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk?
Elon Musk.
Why do you think Elon Musk?
I think Elon's
He,
smarter.
like,
works with robots, so like maybe he built a robot to fight for him.
But what if Mark Zuckerberg is a robot?
Oh wow. Then I might have to change my answer.
Who do you think is going to win?
Me.
Glad you're with us. 6th and Peabody, our location, with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. HotMic with Hutton and Withrow rolls on across the OutKick network. It's been several months since we last had our next guest on the show, Christian Hackenberg, college football quarterback for Penn State, NFL as well, and now a professional podcaster. Just signed a deal with Mercury, and it was great last fall. Christian, thanks for coming back on the show, man. Hope things are well, and congrats on the new podcast.
Yeah, Jonathan, appreciate it, man. It's been fun, staying around it, staying in it, and being able to kind of give a different perspective and my perspective on things, which is fun, and people actually listen.
No doubt,
that's big.
You've lived it. Is this Penn State specific, or is this across the college football landscape?
Yeah, so the deal with Penn State was just signed, so it is Penn State specific right now, but the goal is to eventually expand slowly and surely as we get some momentum with it. It might start Big Ten and then hopefully go nationally in terms of coverage. But Mercury's got a great plan. They're doing some really cool things in the NIL space, and it's kind of surrounded around that, getting involvement, figuring out ways how to help players tell their story, create content, grab some value in that market share. And, for me, starting, I bleed blue and white. So it was a great opportunity.
Penn State, number 7 in the AP college football preseason poll. And looking ahead, as usual, Michigan and Ohio State, they're in the top 4. Looking at their schedules, Ohio State and Michigan, I mean, they'll be unbeaten for a while based on the way things play out. And when they play Penn State, which is in November, what do you make of where the Nittany Lions are right now? And is it time for James Franklin to win and climb the ladder to the next step?
Yeah, listen, I can't remember a time that the program's had this much hype. It's been some time in terms of expectations coming into the season. And the one thing that I've harped on specifically with Penn State for the past few years has just been a lack of identity, especially on offense. I think defensively, Brent Pry did a great job, and then Manny Diaz stepped in and did fine. And the way they recruited was to compete, in my opinion, with more of those Ohio State attacks, spread, lateral game. You can match up with multiple different personnels. But offensively, I thought that they just really struggled. There's a lot of change at the coordinator position, a lot of turnover there. And I think that this year they finally hit a point where they, especially with a young quarterback coming in, can run the ball definitively. And to me, that's the separation point between the Ohio States of the world, the Georgias of the world, the Alabamas of the world, and really everybody else, is the ability to run the football on command and efficiently when they need to, but also have the ability to be explosive on the outside and creative with offensive schemes. And you've seen that evolution over the past few years. And I think Penn State just has lacked the toughness up front, but last year was a huge sign of improvement. And I think they're doing a great job recruiting that position and continuing to develop it to where it needs to be. And like I highlighted, especially with a young guy stepping in, everyone's talking about Aller and all that stuff and Bo and who's going to be the guy. But to me, it really doesn't matter as long as they have a great foundation and get those guys some meaningful reps under their belt with a great supporting cast and a great run game.
How warranted is the hype around Aller coming into this season?
Listen, he's a great player. He's got all the tools. Everyone talks about it. But like I said, ultimately, I think it's going to come down to the guy that can go in there and execute and move efficiently. They don't have to be Superman in this system. They don't have to try to take games over early, just kind of grow into those experiences, experience some failure, but obviously know that you're going to be able to rely on guys outside and guys behind you to make up some ground and just make sure you're doing your job and executing. And I've had a chance to talk to him a little bit heading into the season. I think he's got a great mindset. But like I said, they've got a really good room top to bottom up there at the quarterback position. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they handle that from a coaching staff standpoint. But to answer your question, he's got a lot of potential, and I'm really excited to see how he takes advantage of those opportunities.
Christian, it feels like everyone had a big opinion on USC and UCLA when they made the move to the Big Ten. I don't feel the same way about Oregon and Washington. Not that people are down on it, but all this stuff happened so fast, and maybe that was a part of it. But I've not heard about that big splash when they were announced as two new teams to the Big Ten. What is your perspective, former Penn State quarterback, other side of the country, about Oregon and Washington joining the Big Ten?
Well, I think the whole realignment thing's been, I think we're all getting numb to it now with people leaving, Colorado, and then you have the SEC just mopping up everyone that they can. And I said this from the beginning. I think ultimately it's going to come down to like an NFL type structure. There's going to be a North and a South. There's going to be subdivisions within that. And that's where it's going to play off into almost that expansion in the playoffs. And right now, I just think it's again, expected. I think we're numb to it. And I think ultimately it's just a very small move in the greater game of chess, in my opinion, from this point. So I think it's great. I'm curious to see how everything's going to hash out. Obviously, as a Big Ten guy, we have to keep up with the SEC, and they went out and got Texas. They went out and got Oklahoma. They've already got a loaded roster from team standpoint that they've always had. So if you're going to compete with the big boys, you got to go out and get some of those programs that can do that. And like I said, I think it's just more direction to where I think the overall picture and landscape of conferences and realignments are going to go.
Christian Hackenberg, our guest here on HotMic with Hutton and Withrow. We all have our favorites in terms of what we like and preferences on quarterback style, makeup, moxie, all of that. Of the top returning quarterbacks in college football, Christian, with Williams and May, Leonard and Hartman, who do you look at as your favorite? Maybe not just best player, but just favorite quarterback to watch and see grow as they push towards the NFL?
Well, it's really hard not to enjoy watching Caleb Williams play, especially in today's game and today's schemes. It's changed so much, even since I was coming out. You have guys who can move around, facilitate more a point guard type of play. They're looking for high efficiency clips, playing laterally, and you're not recruiting those big guys that can work off play action, get outside the pocket, and push the ball down the field vertically. Not saying that Caleb can't do that. He can, but it's just kind of a different makeup. To me, my favorite, though, the guy who I enjoy watching the most because he's kind of a hybrid of the old school and the new school is Drake May. He's really fun to watch. It's an explosive system down there in North Carolina. Obviously, they're playing in the ACC, which is, again, with all this conference realignment, a question mark of how relevant that conference is going to be. But fortunately, he put together a good enough year last year where I think he does the same thing this year. He's going to put himself in a really good position to be drafted, like I've said this before, 1A, 1B. He's going to be in the conversation with those guys depending on fit. So my personal taste is Drake May, but I love watching Caleb Williams play. And like I said, I think that's the evolution in the direction the quarterback position's going.
Speaking of fit, best fit for the rookie quarterbacks right now in the NFL and worst. Who do you really like based on where they are versus maybe where they are for the worst answer too?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I'm going to go on a limb here, mainly because he played really well and mainly because I've been on his hype train since last year, was Aiden O'Connell. And I'm really excited to kind of see where his career path goes. I think he's in an awesome situation there with Jimmy. They brought him in. Josh McDaniels, he's a great fit for him for that system. And he looked really, really good, really comfortable. And I've said it. I thought he was the most pro-ready quarterback. Put him in a system, let him facilitate. He may not have the highest upside.
Internet clip there, I believe, on Christian's end. Maybe not. We've got the snipe. we'll check back in with
We'll
him.
try to get him back
How about Aiden
on.
O'Connell being the answer?
Aiden O'Connell looked really good. Aiden O'Connell, I was reading the descriptions of every single preseason game, and the description of O'Connell was that he's been terrible in camp so far and doesn't look the part, but he's just a natural gamer, that he got out there in the game and looked great. And that's kind of the way he was at Purdue also.
I believe
we got him back now.
Christian's back with us now. We were filling in the gap there for you a little bit.
There you go.
No problem.
Sorry.
You sound great now. Aiden O'Connell with the fit, and it's certainly based on the coaching style and preference.
Correct. I think the system plays well. And then to me, if you're drafted in the top 5, it's really tough to get in a great system with a great supporting cast. I think Carolina's done a good job, and I really like Frank Reich. I think Bryce Young's going to have a chance to do something. With regards to fit, I think Anthony Richardson has the highest climb in terms of a hill to climb, just because of the amount of tape, the amount of games he played in college, how it was kind of up and down, and obviously the talent's there, everything's there. I think it's just going to take some really good nurturing for them, but I think he has the highest hill to climb in terms of starting from day one and rolling from there.
From your experience, whenever you got to the Jets coming out of college, the transition with the hash marks, where in college for the quarterbacks, everything is played sideline to sideline. The NFL is down the middle of the field. For the rookies right now, how much of an adjustment is that? That certainly adds to the speed of the game, the speed of certain options within the offense and surveying. How much of an adjustment was that for you, and what are they facing this year?
I think the largest adjustment is the defense's ability to disguise things, because it does kind of shrink things. And to your point, when you're sitting in the college hash, if it's cover 6 or they're clouding the backside, like, it's really easy to see that just because of distribution and time and space. Like they have to be able to get to their spot, and they kind of have to tip their hand of where they're going, rotation, so on and so forth. But when you're playing in the middle of the field, defenses can really disguise things well. You're really starting to key off of defensive alignments in terms of the fronts and the linebacker alignments to really tell you what that secondary is going to do, because those guys are freakishly talented. So they can really disguise things. And that's where I think the hashes, for at least my experience, made a big difference, was being able to live and die by your pre-snap reads and what you're seeing. But it's a lot of read and react once the ball's snapped.
I feel like the Commanders have really had sort of unconventional quarterback setups in the past. And at times, Kirk Cousins is a guy who comes to mind just off the top of my head, where 4th-round pick, RG3 gets hurt, doesn't work out. The expectations were so low for Kirk Cousins, and he went over those expectations but said, hey, this guy's pretty good. And he's sort of made a living as being the guy that you don't expect to be good that's actually good throughout his time with Washington and then the Vikings. Could Sam Howell be that type of player for Washington? Because that is, of all the quarterback situations across the league, alongside maybe Tampa, but at least they have a Baker Mayfield there, one of the least interesting stories to follow is what's going on there. Could Howell be that Kirk Cousins type for that organization?
Well, I think it's funny you're saying that, because it diminishes that just by you bringing it up. You know what I mean? I think that there's pressure there. You know what I'm saying? And if people can realize that, and they start talking about it, but I do like Sam's game. And to my point of like Caleb Williams and where the game's going, defenses, the old days of like 7-step and a hitch, throwing it to a spot, those types of things are gone. Defenses are playing a lot more kind of hybrid man zone type of concepts, read and react. So it's really about being able to facilitate and distribute the football. And I think Sam can do that. I thought he looked pretty good in the preseason. And to your point, there's not much in that room. And if you made an investment in the guy in the draft like they did, I think it's a great opportunity for him to show what he can do, and if he can be a sustainable player in this league at that position. But ultimately, you only see that when you roll him out on a light. So, I think if I was in those shoes, that's what I would be doing. I'd be nurturing him as much as I can, understanding that I got Jacoby in the background who can step in and win me ball games, or at least keep me competitive, because he's done that in the past.
Christian Hackenberg with us. Final 45 seconds or so here. Is there a coordinator or maybe a head coach that you wanted to play for in the league but never had the chance to do it in the 4 clubs you were with?
Oh, man. That's tough. I not off the top of my head, but I think there's a lot of great minds out there now, and I think the young guys, the who's in Philly right now? I'm sorry, off the top of my head. Who's the head guy in Philly?
Right. Hurts,
No.
quarterback.
No, the head coach.
Why am I blanking on the head coach right now in Philly?
Why am I blanking on it too?
I wanted to say
I live
Steichen
in
for a
South
moment.
Jersey. I'm gonna get smacked for this. But anyway, love to play for him. I love his energy. I thought Doug
Sirianni.
Peterson,
Nick Sirianni.
Nick
From the
Sirianni.
Colts, yeah.
I think that there's a lot of young guys stemming from that system that are just like really energetic. They know football. At the end of the day, it's a copycat league. Like everyone's trying to do the same thing from a scheme standpoint, but I think it's mostly about confidence in the guys. And I thought Doug Peterson did a good job. My short time in Philly, I signed like halfway through training camp, but I love Doug for that reason. True players guy, really got the guys to buy in and got the best out of you. And sometimes when you run into those guys who've been around a while, it's a lot of expectations, kind of vet favoritism at times. And the young guys, you just kind of have to hope you get hitched with the right person. But a lot of these young guys are invested in the youth and in the league. And I think it's really good and it benefits everybody.
I'm fascinated to see Peterson in year 2 now with Trevor Lawrence. Yeah. Tell us briefly how we can find the podcast.
Yeah, we're going to be launching it again through Mercury. We're still working through the final details of hashing everything out. We think we got a name zeroed in, but
nice.
I'll be pumping things out via my social media. Mercury will as well. My former teammate Adam Brenneman's doing a lot with it, so we're going to see. You'll see it following the social media channels.
Love it.
First one should be coming out next couple weeks.
We'll have you back on whenever that happens. Hey, thank you so much, man. Always enjoy the chats. We'll do it again soon.
Thanks, Christian.
Chad, Jonathan, appreciate it, guys.
Appreciate you.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
I just think the way Anthony Bass handled this was so sloppy.
Oh, I think it's perfect.
And what he reposted and how he did it.
He bent the knee and bowed. He was going to catch the ceremonial first pitch.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
When you're behind closed doors, when you're talking to plant managers, when you're having meetings, when you're with the team, was there an acknowledgement of any of this, an acknowledgement of the situation, the boycott, and then the doubling down about moving away from the fratty image?
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people. I'm pissed off about this. I never did it before in my life, but Trump is being cheated. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. A bold taste of the Southern Legend.
Our thanks to Christian Hackenberg for joining us.
Really good.
Yeah,
Always brings it.
Penn State should be really good. He's also a former Jets quarterback. We've got Hard Knocks episode 2 tonight.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm looking forward to watching.
Yeah.
I'll probably get to it tonight.
Or Hard Knocks New York Jets is more like Hard Knocks Aaron Rodgers. And he looks refreshed, energized. It's amazing what a new scene will do, a fresh start.
And a darkness retreat.
And a darkness retreat that, he comes out seeing green.
And puking your guts out after ayahuasca. And tripping.
Whatever he's doing is working.
10 years younger.
Because here he is earlier today with Boomer and Gio and discussing how excited he is and hyped up he is to be in New York with the Jets organization.
Now that you're here and you see this team up close and personal, I guess is as good as you thought it was? Better.
Yeah, definitely better. I think sometimes you can say nice things about one thing and not be dissing another. So when I say great things about how I'm loving this year, I feel like I need to say before that it's not a shot against Green Bay. I have a lot of love and gratitude for that time. But that chapter is over, and this has been better than I was even daydreaming about, sitting in that hole in the ground, thinking about what my life could be. Because I contemplated retirement, I contemplated coming back, and the Jets was always the team that was the most interesting to me because of Robert, because of Nathaniel, because of the way they whooped our ass last year, and I thought that it was going to be a good ball club. But it's really been better than I could have expected, and it feels like sometimes that I woke up inside of a dream and that this is my life playing out. I pinch myself at various times throughout the week, every single week that I've been here. Like, man, how cool is my life right now? How special is this?
I mean, it's like he's a rookie all over again, and only this time he doesn't have to sit behind Brett Favre for 3 years when he's a rookie. So he's coming into that first rookie situation where he feels fresh-faced, his soul is pure coming into it, and he's ready to go. I mean, seriously, that's what the sense I get from him. That first episode of Hard Knocks when he rallied up all the quarterbacks and was giving instructions on be sure when you're in the cafeteria to sit with a different group every day to get to know them, to be leaders on this team. Just little bits of advice like that. And the way his teammates talk about him, it's been refreshing from a refreshed guy.
Well,
that's in his all-new rookie season.
Just to hear him speak. I mean, this is the same guy who would only talk to Pat McAfee last year on a weekly basis.
That's right.
And now he's got the quarterback series or whatever following him around. He's the star of Hard Knocks. He's doing radio interviews in New York. I mean, he's the king of New York, as Doc has just referred to him. And Armando as well. It's hard to disagree. And here's the other thing. Don't overlook the talent around him. Not just saying offense. I get it. Offensively, Garrett Wilson, Corey Davis, Alan Lazard has followed him there. Randall Cobb is there. Yep. McCole Hardeman. I mean, they've got a nice group of receivers. In the backfield now, Dalvin Cook, and you've got Breece Hall coming back. Plus, you have the options of Michael Carter as well, who's going to make the roster. Solid offensive line. But, Chad, don't overlook the fact that he is now with a defense that allowed 18 points per game in 2022. Number 2 in that category, second only to San Francisco that allowed 17. He's now playing with a defense where he's just got to put up 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, he doesn't have to be out of this world good. He doesn't have to be MVP Aaron Rodgers good.
No.
Just the good version of Aaron Rodgers that we've seen for the vast majority of his career. And with a defense like that, they're going to be fun. That illustration I made earlier about Sauce Gardner, Defensive Rookie of the Year, Garrett Wilson, Offensive Rookie of the Year, and those two growing together with the Jets, it's fun to think about. And it's now, to me, the story that most people, if you're indifferent about that team, but want to see great things in the league, you're rooting for the Jets. At least I am. I'm rooting for them to do well and be relevant all year because this is a show that I want to watch. I'm not talking about Hard Knocks Jets or Hard Knocks Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
I'm talking about the New York Jets show. I want to watch them week to week.
And that conference, the AFC, stacked.
Yep.
Stacked. Here is Rodgers making a fans' day at a recent Jets practice.
I don't know. I don't know, honey. I don't think he can. He's too busy. Where is he? He's too busy.
Hey, Tony, how you doing, buddy? I'm Aaron. Nice to meet you. I like that jersey you got on.
Hey.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Where are you from?
Thank you.
Where are you from? Where are you from?
Sterling.
Sterling? Where's that? I'm new to the East Coast. You gotta
Morris
help me out.
County.
Morris County.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes,
Awesome.
yes. May we ask you to sign his hat?
Of course, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Of course. What have you been up to this summer, buddy? Anything fun?
You go to camp? Tell him. Talk. Yeah. What do you do?
Camp? What kind of camp? I get in this thing, Dad.
1, 2. This is awesome, buddy.
Think about the perception of Aaron Rodgers over the last 3 years to now. Just
seeing
publicly,
this show
just the
and seeing
public
that.
perception and persona.
I mean, even Peter King has shut up about him. I think Peter King even likes him now.
Yeah.
Who was the guy who didn't vote for him for MVP because of his stance on COVID vaccinations? Wasn't it a guy in Pittsburgh?
Well, no, it was with Pro Football Weekly.
It's a guy I'd heard of, though, that
yes.
done something on radio or somewhere else.
I'll think of it.
But I've heard even that guy likes Aaron Rodgers.
He would vote for him for MVP now?
That guy, I think he might vote for him for MVP just based on that video.
Arkish.
With that kid, that's it. Hub Arkish.
Arkish.
Hub Arkish even likes Aaron Rodgers. That was awesome to see. And I love videos like that with young fans. And it's cool to see the young fan get so excited they just don't speak or can't speak. Aaron Rodgers reeled off about, 10 questions there in that short amount of time.
Yeah.
And that kid was just letting his parents answer every question, just soaking it in with Aaron Rodgers. Really cool to see that.
Chad, the rival of Rodgers, the other team that he owns, if he's the king of New York, he's also king of Chicago.
Yes.
He's announced his dominance and presence there based on the record against the Bears throughout his career as the Packers quarterback. The Bears, they now have a new primary logo. They're doing away with the wishbone C, at least as the primary logo, and they're going to the bear head instead. So, they're saying it's a subtle change to just kind of match up with their marketing, but the C is iconic, at least to me. The Bears logo, I thought the bear head was also prominent as well. I don't think I would say I see one more than the other, but why would you make the change prior to right before the season and announce it that you're doing the primary logo? It's now going to be the secondary logo, and you're just flip-flopping them.
Let me ask another question based off this report.
Think about the helmets.
Why should we care if it doesn't change the helmet?
Well,
because I here's why I say that.
Okay.
I'm watching the Bears this weekend in that preseason game against the Titans.
Mm-hmm.
And I turn to my 8-year-old daughter and I say, honey, these are some of the best uniforms, not just in football, but on planet Earth.
Yes.
I love the Bears. Uniform design, the colors, everything about it. I have always loved since I was a kid. Never been a Bears fan, but a huge fan of that C, that navy blue helmet, the orange C, the uniforms, the white, the blue, everything about them. I love their home, away uniforms, everything. As long as they don't mess with the helmet with the C on it, I don't care if they want to make the bear face, which is also a fine logo.
It's fine.
That's fine too. If they want to make that their primary logo, just don't put it on the helmet. Don't mess with the helmet. If you want to do that with the other stuff, I don't care. Don't mess with the helmet. I'm assuming they're not messing with the helmet. on this?
It's been the bear head will be the top recognized primary mark for the franchise. Why the change? The Bears spokesperson said the bear head has been the co-primary mark. It is unique to the Chicago Bears brand. The minor change simply provides clarity for retail media and other team and league partners to start the creative process with the bear head.
Yeah, every time they show a score graphic, they'll have the bear head and not the C next to it. That's what the primary logo is for, right? When you're looking at anything on TV or anywhere, they'll put that on there. But just don't mess with the helmet.
And they're also not changing the middle of the field at Soldier Field either. So it'll be the C.
Good.
By the way, this made me think of like the throwback uniforms, and the Bears are tossing it back to like their 1936 version of the throwback unis. Many teams are doing this with the I think they're calling it the classic uniform. The Chiefs simply said, "Nah, we don't need one. We're just going to wear our normal uniforms."
I love that, and their normal uniform is pretty classic. They haven't really deviated much.
The Bears too
from the normal uniform. Yeah. Bears also. Bears, I feel like everyone has their closet team, the one that you kind of put away and you say, if something really bad happened with my team and I could not root for them anymore, who would you be a fan of?
Yeah.
The Bears have always been that for me. Like if I could just start over in life and say I'm a fan of a certain team, it would be the Bears. And primarily because of the history and Ditka and Walter Payton and all of that too, but primarily because of that uniform and that logo and those colors.
Justin Fields looked really good.
Yeah.
In the first preseason
2 for 2.
Yeah.
2 touchdown drives in his 2 drives.
Chad, Trevor Lawrence certainly looked good towards the end of last season, and how he came along in his second season with Doug Peterson in year 1 as the head coach. Now going into year 2, Peterson is saying that the consistency, the confidence, it's as high as it's been for Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville. Quote, the biggest thing that I've seen with Trevor, now going on 2 years, is from where we had him a year ago in the offseason today, his confidence is incredible. It's off the charts. He's put that past behind him. He's focused on the future and really embraced this opportunity with this football team. The confidence level with him is extremely high, as it should be. This is the guy that should make the biggest jump, because he didn't go. Most quarterbacks do make their biggest jump from year 1 to year 2.
And this is his.
Well, he's now in year 2 with Peterson.
Exactly.
But now you've got the full offseason with him. This should be it. And you're done with that 1 year with Urban Meyer, and now you've got the true year 2, even though it's 3, to where he's now in that next tier. And in this day and age, you could see Justin Herbert, who got paid a ton. He's currently the highest paid player in the NFL. He doesn't have the playoff showing. Trevor Lawrence will certainly get paid too. But to be mentioned in that top tier, he's got to climb the ladder in a big way. Otherwise, he's not an afterthought. But, Chad, he's also not one of the top 6 or 7 quarterbacks that you just named in the AFC. And to me, he's got to be there based on the fact that he has been the guy from high school to college and was the unanimous number 1 pick a year and a half prior to him even entering the NFL draft. We knew where he was going. He's going number 1. And if they get the most out of him, if Peterson works his magic like he has in the past with other quarterbacks, Jacksonville is a team to watch based on across the board their young talent and their depth at certain positions. They're in a really great spot as long as Lawrence leads the way.
If you're going down the list of AFC star quarterbacks, Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Rodgers,
Lamar Jackson,
Herbert, you go a little ways before you get to Trevor Lawrence. And I don't think that's a knock on him as this generational possibly talent as the number 1 overall pick. It's a knock on Urban Meyer. He gets a mulligan in year 1. That was an abject disaster led by Urban Meyer where he was not given a chance. So I'm with you, Hutton, that this is his year 2 under Doug Peterson. He got better in his rookie year. His rookie year was his 1 year under an actual coach in Doug Peterson. And now this is his second year where he's going to take a huge jump. I expect that from him.
And we saw him be more vocal, even though he was the leader the minute that they earned the first pick in the draft. He's more of a leader publicly, too, at the end of that season whenever Meyer got fired. And he became more vocal and more out front with his opinions on things and where the franchise should go. That also carries a heavy weight within the locker room. Players respond to that. And here's hoping Lawrence continues to do what he did towards the end of last season, and which would turn around the perception of, okay, is this guy just middle of the pack or can he be great? I think we're still iffy, but he's got the chance.
Hutton will respond to today's show tomorrow with another good show tomorrow. That will be our response.
We start at 3 o'clock Eastern. HotMic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick Network.